everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and joining me is the amazing Danny Nixon.
Hey everybody.
And Danny and I are about to jump into a bizarre foray of madness. Danny and I are going to watch and record a commentary for Batman 1989 7 times in a row.
We are just as insane as the Joker. Or maybe Batman in this universe.
Yeah, right. We'll talk, I'm sure, quite a bit about which of those people is the crazier one. So, if you didn't see the April Fool's Day video from this last year, I put a joke in there about doing Batman 89 every day for a year and making it kind of a Batman year sort of project, and it was Batman 89 365, and that was one of a few jokes in that video, including Eric Holden's Neighborhood, that people just begged us to make into an actual series. And I'm not going to go that far, although my wife is almost like betting against me that I'm not going to continue on after 7 days with this and keep doing more commentaries on the same movie. But I wanted to do this, do a whole week of it because, well, partly because Danny volunteered, and I didn't think anyone would be crazy enough to actually do this with me.
Yeah, if y'all don't like this idea and you think he should be dedicating his time to other more important ventures on the channel, you can blame me for this, because I kind of egged him on one of the live shows.
It sounded like a really fun thing to do. Another reason I wanted to do this is because 89 has the record of the movie that we've done the most commentaries on the same film for, and I wanted to stretch that beyond credulity, where nothing else had even a ghost of a chance of ever getting to that number. So we've had the initial Batman 89 commentary that I did with Vince, which was, I think, only the second commentary on the channel. Danny, a lot of years have passed now, and it's hard to think back in kind of the infancy of the channel when I didn't think anyone would watch a commentary. Because when Vince and I first did that Daredevil commentary, we just did it as an experiment, and I don't think there were a lot of people on YouTube doing these yet. And I was like, surely no one's going to actually listen to a couple of bozos online just talk over a movie. And it's become one of the things that people are more interested on in the channel, and so we've continued doing it all these years. So 89 was the second thing we did, naturally, because of my, nostalgia and experience with this movie. And then we did another one later on with, I did one with Eric, where we did a quote-along commentary where I attempted to speak every word in the film, and Eric just threw out some of his thoughts on the movie. And then we did the one for Batmania. And when we did Batmania, one of the conversations Eric and I had, Danny, was, do we really want to do this? Because it will be the third time 89 has gotten a commentary.
And fast forward to the end of this week, and there will be 10 commentaries on this one movie.
That's right. So Danny and I are going to record 7 commentaries. We're going to have one for you every single day of this week. And some of them we're talking about, we're going to fly by the seat of our pants on this. Some of them we're talking about doing a singular topic having to do with this movie for the entire time. We're talking about maybe doing one just on the score. Danny wants to do one on the influence this movie has had on other Batman things and cinema in general after this. I think that's a great idea. We might do that one. And then our plan right now, anyway, is at the end of the week, because we will have been studying for this test, Danny. By the end of the week, Danny and I are going to split up the roles, cast each other as different characters in this movie, and do a second quote-along commentary for 89 that will be, unlike the first one, not just me doing all the lines, and it will be more of like an attempted dramatic reinterpretation of Batman 89 while watching Batman 89. I'm so excited about it. Danny and I have been going back and forth trying to decide who's going to play whom, and we might talk about that a little bit even as we're watching the movie, because let's face it, we have lots of time to talk about anything we want to.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll discuss a lot of roles for each of us going forward, but nothing's going to be decided until that 7th commentary, so don't hold us to any one particular role. until we.
But
get
I'm really
to
excited about this, Danny, because anything I might think to say that I don't get a chance to, I've got 6 more commentaries.
Exactly.
Well, 5, I guess, because we won't
Yeah.
be doing that last commentary. Somewhat ironically, won't actually be a commentary.
Yeah, it will be us fully insane, and then at the end of it, we may both have to be committed into Arkham because of this endeavor.
I think that's likely. Now, Danny, for the folks at home, how many times prior to today have you watched this movie on your own?
6 3/4 of the way through. I lost power the last time I was trying to watch through this film, so I know the first, 2/3 of the movie pretty well.
Danny's going to be really surprised when he gets to the end, and he's going to be like, wait a minute, this makes no sense. What is this third act?
I've never seen this before. What's the church doing in this movie?
So what you're saying is you will have seen this, we will be watching this one time more than you have watched it so far.
Yeah. I will have doubled the amount of times I've watched this movie by the end of this experiment.
So are you worried that you're going to be like really, really sick of this movie by the end and you're never going to want to watch it again?
When we first discussed actually doing this idea, I was. And then that night I went and watched it in preparation. And now I am just fascinated by this movie. I love everything about this for what it is. I don't want to say it's perfect, because it's certainly not perfect. But I am...
No, Danny's including the flaws in that.
Oh yeah, the flaws are perfectly flawed. No, I'm fascinated by this thing. The idea of doing 7 commentaries in a row on this movie,
on the same movie. We've never done anything like this. As a lot of you guys know, we like to do some odd experiments, kind of social experiments on this channel. And yeah, we're coming into our 10th year next year, Danny, and this feels like the time. We've been doing so many videos for so long. It's time to finally do a bunch of commentaries on the same film.
I think we should do a counter, like in Batmania, of all the different tropes that you find. Just see if we can find these same tropes that pop up in this one movie multiple times. Just make a tick every time.
I'm
we
sure
watch the
after
movie.
a while we'll start finding really strange patterns that you would only find watching the same movie in rapid succession this many times. Now, I don't expect to be that tired of it by the end, or for this to be too difficult for me, because I've seen this movie probably 100 times. But I could be wrong. It'll be interesting to see.
It would be hysterical if Cap, of all people, at the end of this is like, I never want to see Batman 89 ever again. I want to get rid of anything related to
See, I feel like if reading the way superior goes without saying first draft Sam Hamm script didn't turn me off from wanting to watch this movie again, nothing will. That's what I want to say.
But who knows? Watching it 7 times in a row might be that breaking point for you.
We'll find out. Now, if I did the 365 thing, yes, absolutely. I think that would probably drive me insane, although that can't be harder than Spawn Year. I feel like that would be easier than Spawn Year.
You know what? You should do Spawn Year again, where you watch Spawn from 1997 365 days in a row.
Oh no, that I know for sure I couldn't do. And that would be madness. That would be real madness. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. If you want to watch the movie with us, get out your DVD or Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. There is nobody streaming this at the moment that I know of. It was on Netflix at one time. I don't believe it is right now. Is it?
No, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, which is surprising. At the time of this recording, is still on Netflix. If you're watching this in the future, who knows? It may be on DC Universe. But if you've got the DVD, the Blu-ray, you've bought it digitally.
That's right. You and I chatted about that a little bit off camera because I just assumed it would be on DC Universe, and this is obviously going to majorly date this commentary. But I assumed it would be on DC Universe because the previews showed Batman Returns and stuff. But you said that not everything is necessarily going to be there.
Yeah, from
the same series.
From what I have seen of like the legal text at the end of trailers and everything, and other people discussing news that has come out, it's going to be stuff that comes and goes. So we can't necessarily assume that just because it's DC, it's going to be on there forever. It may be on there for a short time to get people interested, or they may post it at a later time to, if they want to put a sale, like get, a month free, and you can also watch this movie. I don't know the details of it, this is going to be really dated by the time the
Yeah,
streaming service
that's
is
okay.
up.
But you said
But-
animated Batman, they weren't even putting all of up
Yeah,
in the first place.
The legal text that they put in the disclaimer says seasons 1 and 2. And that could mean either volumes 1 and volume 2, which is how Amazon Prime streaming is set up, or that could mean the strictest definition of season 1 and season 2, which is the first 3 volumes of the show in its technical season runs. Because the first season is 65 episodes, so they could get to syndication. And then everything up till the new Batman Adventures is technically season 2 from 66
Yeah, but it would be weird. We're running off now. It would be weird to word it that way, though, if it was all of that series but New Batman Adventures, because that is technically a different show.
Yeah, I don't really know what they're doing with that show. I think we'll best know what they're doing with that show, obviously, when they post it, but also when the Blu-ray comes out and we see how they've structured the seasons on that. Because I'm assuming they'll do it to be consistent across the board once they've got everything out in Blu-ray as well as on the streaming service. So, you know, if they've got that set up in the same volume 1, 2, 3, and 4 like Amazon does, or how the DVDs in the past have done it, it would be weird that they've got seasons 1 and 2 on DCU, but not 3 and 4.
Well, I guess we'll find out. Let's go ahead and get into this. Once again, if you want to watch it with us, get out your DVD, your Blu-ray, get it past all the menus to timestamp 0, and get ready to press play when I say now. Danny, are you ready, buddy? Are you ready for the craziness?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Everybody, please press play right now. Were you trying to sync up with me? Was that the snap? Was it like a syncing snap?
I snapped, so in my audio that I'm recording, it would be easy to figure out when it started.
That's smart. Yeah, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Years and years of commentaries, nobody's ever done that. That's a really good idea.
See, I was just doing it because I listened to a little bit of audio I had recorded the other day, and trying to see if clicking on the computer would make a sound so I could figure out when to, you know, how to keep track of stuff like that in the audio.
That works for me.
I guess because of the mic I'm using and where my computer is set up in relation to the mic, it's not really picking it up. It normally does, but I've got a different setup going right now, so I just figured better be safe than sorry, and we don't get off sync when we get to actually posting the video.
So you know what I'm kind of nostalgic for, Danny? I miss the analog days of movie editing where the credits kind of bounce a little bit.
Yeah, it gives it that extra little bit of life and a little bit of, like, character that you don't get when it's just purely digital, and you can throw it right in the center of the screen and not have any imperfections.
Yeah, you know what it feels like? It feels like it took work. It feels like somebody had to make these.
Right? It's about the same as the revelation I had when I figured out how they finally did the scroll in Star Wars, and someone is pulling it along trying to keep it at a consistent speed.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, this isn't a camera, like aimed at a, you know, flat, like, written out word. Like, it isn't that, but the way, I had to do some analog editing like this when I was in high school. Good job, Ray Lovejoy. Way to edit this movie. Good job. We're
Good job,
about you,
Anton
buddy.
First, for the production design.
But yeah, when it's analog and not digital, it does bounce like that some.
Yeah, obviously it's not the same as having to pull the scrolling text as Star Wars, but it's still, you know, it's a whole lot easy, a whole lot more work than just, let's type in Chris Kinney right here and overlay it over our movie.
And Michael Uslan, who is still producing all of these Batman projects.
Really? Does he still have... Who is it who's got... Or who at the time of this was making it, had bought the film rights for it?
I think that might have been him, but I'm not totally positive.
I was watching one of the behind-the-scenes things, and this, to get on a quick tangent, this matte painting is currently my laptop's background.
Oh, cool.
I love it so much. I love the look of Gotham City.
Danny has really been preparing for these commentaries. He's just 89 everything now.
Oh, I am obsessing over this movie. I've gone and watched some of your videos over this movie. I've gone and looked up stuff about the toys, stuff about the production.
He is ready.
I am studying for this quote along at the end of this.
That's awesome. The Adelphi Hotel, I never noticed that before.
Yeah, I think later when we see Bruce actually setting the roses down near the hotel, we don't actually see what the name of it is. We just see hotel written somewhere. Because I was looking for it. Well, after you had mentioned that name to me, I went and looked at it when I was rewatching the movie recently, and I couldn't see it in there. Maybe I just wasn't catching it or wasn't looking in the right spot.
Oh, okay. The movie playing at the movie theater right then is Footlight, which I think was actually a real film. I looked that up at one point.
Really? See, it's kind of weird that it's not something like Zorro. That you'd put something in there that would.
I think maybe it's supposed to be right, but I think maybe that if you're really paying attention, because it's far enough in the background. I mean, I saw this movie probably 87 times before I noticed that there were posters there. But I think maybe the idea is supposed to be. I'm totally reading too far into this. That is one of the tells that this is not Bruce and his parents.
See, I didn't think about that. I was just thinking, because this scene to me feels like they're trying to set up. Oh, this is the origin, and then give a little twist and a little turn.
Yeah, it surprises us when Batman actually shows up in the middle of what looks like his own parents' murder. I've always liked that a lot, and it feels like we're trying to subvert a formula that was not yet a formula.
I know, it's crazy how ahead of the curve this is, being literally ahead of the curve.
It really is. I mean, it's super cool that we get the origin in there, but we don't have to wait for Bruce Wayne to put the Batsuit on at the end, and that was really smart. Obviously, nobody knew how huge this movie was going to be, and, I mean, it was a very expensive movie to make. It was the most expensive thing that had been shot at Pinewood Studios, and I think is shot in Britain at the time, because that's where this is shot. But there was no way to know how much of a massive hit this was going to be, and so this was not probably on purpose, but it ended up being a really good thing that we got to see Batman in all of his leathery glory in the first 3 minutes of this movie, because that's what you came here to see, and that symbol was on products and on television and freaking everywhere. And if you had to wait too long to get to it, I think that could have really turned audiences off.
I agree. I think, a film like Batman Begins, where we spend a lot of time setting up who Bruce Wayne is before he becomes Batman, only has that luxury because we've already had a movie like this, and then the 3 sequels, obviously, that got people inundated with who Batman is. They weren't... I mean, people at the time of Batman Begins were starving for a good Batman, but they had seen Batman on screen, and it wasn't like you were going to the theater and would be disappointed if, the first act didn't open up with Batman.
Yeah, that's true. Like our knowledge of that character has to inform that movie to some degree. You certainly don't, like BVS, want to leave things out just because we've seen them before, because it still needs to be a story that holds together. But, I have that problem with Spider-Man Homecoming, where it's like we don't even bring up Uncle Ben. Well, we all know that already. Well, yeah, but for the sake of the story we're telling, it's really weird that it doesn't come up anywhere. But at the same time, it's impossible for that not to inform the experience in some way. And the only thing that a lot of people are familiar with Batman when this comes out is 66. And so, obviously, we're trying to get as far away from that as humanly possible. And the nice thing is, that show, by and large, wasn't very much about the actual psychology of Batman, or at least not the comic book psychology of Batman. And so you didn't have to be too careful about straying away from certain things like the death of his parents, which is only brought up one time in that show.
Exactly, and obviously there was the previous notions of who Batman was based on 66, but also kind of the fears of people at the time of you're casting Michael Keaton as Batman. Are they going in that same route? And then you open the film up with a...
Wait, I thought it wasn't a comedy. What are we doing?
Yeah, and you open it up with a pretty, for the time, serious Batman of him holding someone over a ledge going, I'm Batman. And that's a really smart way to say right off the bat, no, this is not the Batman you might have been worried we were going to get. This is a serious Batman, or at this time thought of as a serious Batman, because now, unfortunately, I think a lot of people look at this as almost kind of silly in its own right because of what we've done previously.
Sure, and there is obviously an absurdist quality to this movie.
Right, but it's still got a dark seriousness to it that I think kind of gets overlooked because it is so stylized.
Yeah, you have to have historical perspective to really appreciate that, because to our modern standards, it doesn't feel like that, and it's a pretty tame film. Like, like regardless of what you compare it to now. It's a pretty tame movie.
Yeah, you can tell by kind of the like 50s gangster type of gun effect that we'll get to later in the film, but some
of those sound effects are the best.
The sound effects with it, they just kind of drive it in that more kind of heightened, stylized realm that, now if we do a movie that's got gunshots, it's going to be a realistic gun sound as opposed to a pew pew. But we'll talk about that more when we actually get to
She
the point.
looks like the girl that's with Jack Napier right now, and who is of course Grissom's girlfriend, and will be the reason that he gets Jack dropped in the vat of chemicals, but is trying to kill him. She looks like a Robert Palmer backup dancer, and a lot of the women in this movie look like that because that like teased hair and ruby red lipstick look was, and really pale skin look was really in right then, and it would be easy if you're younger and you're not familiar with this to go back or you're not familiar with the 80s to look at this and be like, oh, that's like foreshadowing for the Joker or something, but it's not. That was we thought that was a really cute look right then.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that both Alicia and Vicky Vale have such a similar look. So
that's true.
Jack Napier's definitely got his type.
That's right. Yeah, he's in a one kind of. I love Eckhart so much.
Oh man, his voice is just so absurd. I love it. It's just so gravelly. It's like
drinking Drano. That always stuck with me when I was a kid. It's the best. I don't know if he was necessarily like sort of kind of based on Bullock or not. A lot of people have suggested that.
I mean, his look, whether it's intentional or not, is Bullock almost to a T. I think the first time I went back and watched this as a teenager, from going back to watch it knowing Batman more, I was like, I didn't realize Bullock was in this movie, and then obviously it's
yeah.
Eckhart, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not Bullock.
And Flash is kind of that type too.
Yeah.
But then you have that guy in Dark Knight that is straight up Bullock and just not named that.
Yeah, the one with the long hair that gets pulled up while he's eating his falafel.
Well, no, that's Flash. I'm talking about in Dark Knight, the guy that is supposed to be watching the Joker, and then the Joker eggs him on because of all the people that he killed, and then he's the reason that he gets out of prison. That guy,
okay,
who was played by the bad guy in season 4, Angel, or season 3 into 4. He's a lot like Bullock, and a lot of people thought that he should have just been called Bullock.
Yeah, it's always weird to me that with a backstory and a mythos as deep as Batman's that we don't do the name drop type of thing where it's like they're this character in name only, even if they're really not super related to him. It's just
sometimes we change names for no reason, like the John Daggett thing, which I'll never understand, especially when you already had a main character named John in that movie.
Yeah, speaking of characters in the same universe that share the same first name, Eckhart's first name is Max, and then in the sequel we'll get Max Schreck, which is a unique first name, I would think, to have.
Wait, Eckhart has a first name?
Yep, I was looking this up. His first name is Max.
Man, okay, but that never made it into the movie, right?
No, I don't think it ever makes it into the movie.
I don't think there's any place where we hear that. Man, gee, you started doing research. I do not like that you now know more about this movie than I do.
I know small details. I'm sure on the whole, you know more about this than I do.
Well, I guess we'll find out. No, that's great. Thanks for doing the homework, man. That's awesome. When I was a kid, speaking back to what we were talking about at the beginning with Batman kind of surprisingly showing up and the fake out of maybe that was his parents getting murdered. First of all, it partly works because this is a time that is so out of time that it looks like maybe it's a flashback because it looks like it's like the 50s, but then it's going to turn out the whole movie looks like that.
Exactly.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about this movie has to be that gothic, that Art Deco, that, like World of Tomorrow that got left behind type of look behind this entire Gotham City. I think it's just the most beautiful way to convey that, yeah, this might be happening, in present day, but it's not our present day. It's not like we're just in Chicago or we're just in New York or we're just in some normal big city. It looks like, they may have color TV, but they're still sending faxes, or they're still having to,
Knox is wearing a polka dot tie and
with a striped shirt, so he really needs some fashion advice.
But it seems like you can get away with that kind of stuff in this weird Art Deco world we're in this hodgepodge of time periods.
Yeah, in a world where no one's going to blink twice at Jack Napier wearing a purple suit before he's the Joker, I guess you can kind of get away with some clashing patterns on your shirt and tie.
When I was a kid, I thought Corto Maltese was a real place, and I will admit to this, I don't think, because I never noticed it in comics anywhere, and since then I've seen Corto Maltese like 15 times in comics. I don't think I realized it until it was an Arrow.
Yeah, it's about like me with Latveria from the Fantastic Four, where I'm embarrassed to admit how old I was before I realized, oh, that's not a real place.
That's awesome.
Because Latveria and Corto Maltese, their names sound like they could absolutely be a real
That was
place.
the point with Latveria, though. Stan Lee talks about that all the time.
Yeah, and
that he would get letters from people, like, how do you get to Latveria? He's like, it's not a real place. The other thing I wanted to mention... Sorry, go ahead.
He got me with that, that's for sure.
The other thing I wanted to mention about the beginning is... it's also really smart to get Michael Keaton in the Batsuit right away because of the sheer amount of time he spends out of it throughout the movie, which I don't know that we expected when the movie first came out. And of course, we do that a lot with superhero movies, especially, somewhat ironically, especially movies that are more character pieces and actually let us get in the head of our main character. We understand the man, which is not really what we get here. And famously, that's apparently supposed to be the point on the part of Tim Burton. But
we'll talk about that more.
What he claims. We'll talk about that. But I think it's really smart that we get that right away, because if you're a kid watching this movie, it doesn't feel like Batman's on screen that much, and you get the kids excited right away like that. Because when I was a kid, I remember thinking, and I adored this movie, but I think as a kid it's kind of helpful that Joker isn't in as many scenes as he is, because you at least get like a costume character a lot, which is, as a kid, what you're here for. And I kept thinking, like, well, when's this Bruce Wayne guy gonna get off screen and bring Batman back,
Yeah, and because I'm younger than you, I had that exact same thing with Batman Begins, because that's a movie where, compared to this one, he is definitely not in the suit a whole lot.
And that is a character piece, and I don't need... Honestly, I could have lived with him being in the suit in the last scene and no other scene in that movie.
Yeah, I could too. But with this movie, I've never had that feeling that you have of he's not in the suit enough, because most of what I remember
Well, I don't necessarily have that now, but as a kid I did.
Oh, I know, but, I would... Because I grew up more with Batman Begins, going back to this one, I never really had that thought of, he's out of the Batsuit a lot. If anything, I had the thought of, man, they put him in the suit a lot more than I'm kind of accustomed to.
No, sure.
With normal, at the time, current Batman. And I was like, man, this is cool. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of this costume, I just appreciated that we were putting Batman in a costume for a good portion. Especially when we're doing theatrical things with him, like lifting the cape up really high, or, gliding down and he's got the cape sprawled out. I love that kind of visual.
A lot of people make the argument frequently that Jack Napier in this is just the Joker before he's the Joker, and I really don't understand that criticism.
No, I'm with you, because earlier when we first get him and Eckhart together, Eckhart calls him a psycho. And we have nothing to really piece him together as a psycho. If anything, without that line, I would think, oh, he's cool, he's calm, he's kind of collected, and he's kind of suave, like you would think a normal kind of higher-up gangster would be.
Yeah, I'd say reserved compared to the Joker. Like I something behind his eyes says he's maybe a loose cannon and he could blow up at any time. But you're not seeing him like freaking out on people and murdering people willy-nilly or anything like that. Like, the craziest thing he does is cheat with the boss's girlfriend. That's right, the craziest thing he does, that we see him do on screen. I mean, you find out about assault with a deadly weapon when he was a kid later, and all of the things that got him into the life of crime. But I don't understand the criticism of he's giving the same performance.
Yeah, like...
I don't get it.
That's sleeping with the boss's girlfriend is a different kind of, like, you got a death wish kind of crazy than, like, the psychotic Joker that he portrays.
Is it just because he wears a purple suit? Because, I mean, like, I understand that criticism. I don't know if I would have done that, but...
Yeah. A green suit with, you know, question marks, that's okay, but purple, just straight up purple, no. That is not okay.
Well, I just mean, like that seems like that kind of prequel thing of, like, you know, look, we're doing this kind of cute foreshadowing thing. This guy will be the Joker later. I don't know if I would have done that. I don't, like, maybe the thinking is there needs to be a certain style to this guy before he becomes the Joker that informs the decisions he makes later. Maybe that's the reason he's wearing the purple suit. I don't know. And the whole, you know, playing card motif and the idea that, you know, this guy has a transformation, but there's still something of the original man there that leads him to the clown motif and everything. But the problem with that is he looks like a clown guy.
Well, I think the reason he's in the purple suit here is because he's about to go and get set up and eventually become the Joker. And I think they wanted to give kind of a reason why, you know, he falls into the vat in the purple suit. Maybe he sees that in some way as part of him now. But, you know, we don't really get any of that explained with the Joker in this movie. So that's just me completely overreading into it and then thinking, well, he's about to become the Joker. He's about to do it in this exact same clothing he's wearing now, so he's got to be in the purple suit.
Yeah, but it's really just because we know that guy's going to be the Joker, so he's wearing a purple suit.
Exactly. That was a long-winded way of me going to that exact point.
So I talked about this in the other commentaries. Obviously, it's going to be difficult not to say things I've said before and remember what exactly. And outside of those commentaries, I've also talked about this movie a lot in other videos. But I'm very curious to see if people will still be asking me to redo the rewind after 7 commentaries on Batman '89. But
if people ask you that, you just point them to all 10 of the commentaries over it.
Be like, yeah, just marathon this nonsense.
So of all these suits that are in his, you know, his little armory, I'm kind of surprised that there's not a whole lot of stuff on the suits that you would look at and think maybe that could have been the inspiration for his bat suit. Because I've tried to look at all these suits and see if, you know, maybe this is where he got the idea for this type of armor or this, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of that, which maybe that's looking a little too far into what he's got, but I would have thought maybe that's a cool way of kind of showing where he got the idea for what
that would have been neat. Like. Yeah, I never thought of that. I mean, his suit's not really armored, so, you know, it's kind of just a big leather suit, but at the very least you could have maybe had gauntlets somewhere or something like we did with later on with Begins, but...
Right. And, you know, some of the, like, Greek armor would have, like, the sculpted abs or the pecs, and his suit has kind of that. And I think, personally, it would have been cool if you see a suit that's got that, and, you know, you don't get a verbal explanation or a plot detail of it like you get in Batman Begins or even in Dark Knight when he changes his suit up. But it would have been a cool Easter egg. And this is all with the benefit of hindsight of how we've done this kind of stuff with other movies. So maybe
that's what I was going to say is, yeah, this time period, I mean, remember, this is the second major superhero franchise at all, ever.
Yeah.
For major big screen films. But what I was going to say earlier is I go back and forth on the thing with Bruce Wayne not telling Vicky Vale who he is in the first place. And like in the first commentary I did with Vince, I think I complained about that. It was like, why would you do that? Like maybe I even complained about it in the rewind. I think I did a 6 or 7 minute rewind, and I got that in there somewhere. But the notion that this would be your place and your benefit, and you're having and you see this this woman, and you say, like, I don't know who Bruce Wayne is. Like, I always thought that was just, you know, look how weird and eccentric he is. There was no thought given to it beyond that. But couple of thoughts on it now, the more I thought about it. One is he might like anonymity and people not immediately knowing who he is, and because he's, you know, it's that celebrity thing, because he's famous, maybe he wants to get a sense of a person if they don't recognize him immediately before he says who he is. But it also might be because he's Batman. he's just used to duality. He's just used to not immediately telling people who he is.
Yeah, I had that same thought, and that's the thought I've had when I've watched it. I've just kind of assumed he likes that someone doesn't immediately recognize him for a change. But we see in this movie that even when he's walking in public, people don't stop and stare at him the way you would typically think they would with a celebrity. So he's kind of going about his life.
Especially with a woman he might be immediately enamored with, and thinking like maybe I should ask this girl out. It might be like, I want to get a sense of her. Not just she doesn't recognize me, yay, but also I want to get a sense of her and see if she's just trying to get my money.
Exactly. That's a really great point that I wasn't that I wasn't exactly thinking of in that moment. But that,
like, maybe it's that, because I like that everyone doesn't immediately recognize him like in most Batman things, because later on. And you have this with Oliver Queen, and you have this with Tony Stark. And maybe Tony Stark I get a little bit more, especially after Iron Man, but after he becomes Iron Man. But I don't know the richest person in the city I live in. I don't know what that guy looks like.
Yeah, maybe I always see Bruce Wayne as more of a like world famous rich person, more so than city famous rich person. So
sure.
My interpretation, also growing up in like the paparazzi age where there's the internet and everyone knows who's rich and famous, I've always kind of taken that for granted of, I don't know who the richest guy in my town is either, and I wouldn't necessarily, know him if you walk down the street, and I live in a small town.
But that makes sense if he were someone like Bill Gates or something, where people buy the products of the company he makes all the time. I don't know what Wayne Enterprises makes in this.
And I don't think Tim Burton knows either.
Yeah, I don't know what that company does. I don't think they ever bring up a foundation. I don't know what they make or what they do to help people. If anything, I have no idea.
No, and you would think if he has any kind of a foundation or he's a charitable person, he wouldn't necessarily be holding a fundraiser to save the festival. He would just donate the money to save the festival. So you don't necessarily get the sense that he's the charitable kind of...
But Danny, it costs a lot to fund being Batman, okay? Like, he might just not... he might just not have that much money because of all the money he put into being Batman. This is not a Batman that we see throwing money around.
No, you're right. He doesn't even throw batarangs around. He's very stingy with those.
That's true. The batarang is pretty much just there to grapple up with, right?
Yeah,
or not even grapple up, because he has an automatic grappler, but he uses it as a rope. Like he has the 60s Batman thing where he's got a rope tied around it, which I always really loved.
Yeah,
but I don't think you're right, I don't think he bops people with batarangs in this.
No, he was going over the budget with Alfred a few days ago, and he was like, Master Bruce, you gotta stop leaving these batarangs all around town. They're expensive, man. Alfred wouldn't say man, he'd say Master Bruce, but
And those he mass produces like the ears in Batman Begins, right? Like, he has to get 10,000 of those at a time.
Exactly, so to not raise suspicion of, this guy's just
That's
ordering.
Right. The grapple gun is one of the coolest props in film.
Oh, I agree. I think this is one of my favorite grapple guns. Like, the one in BVS and Justice League, I saw behind the scenes of where they tried to make it look like it was made from old parts of, like, old antique guns and kind of put together themselves in their own Batcave. I don't really like that look. He's rich. He shouldn't have to do that. I love the look of it in this movie. I think it's...
That feels overthought to me a little bit.
I agree.
I don't know. I didn't see that special feature. I'll have to go back and look at that.
It's not a special feature on the DVD. I don't think it was like a written thing in a magazine to promote
weird.
the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a weird thing.
When Jack earlier goes, we've been ratted out, boys, like watch out, don't you think they'd immediately run as fast as they can?
You would think so.
Get the heck out of there.
Maybe there's only one way out, and they... Well, no, because the cops and everything were coming through what looked like a pull-up thing for shipping trucks. So, I don't know. Seems like a weird plot hole just to put there to make this make sense. Because we gotta keep him in there.
Batman moves slow like a slasher villain, and I've always really liked that.
Yeah, it really puts forward that kind of like urban legend kind of force of nature myth going on with Batman. And something we'll see here.
I buy that he's intimidating in this, partly just because of the age. I mean, I realize we're kind of in an out-of-time kind of world, but like the age this is in, it might be about the last year you can get away with this as technology changes. Although Begins kind of kind of does it too. But
Agreed.
it's a heightened world that's, again, not exactly like the one we live in. It doesn't feel maybe as high tech. Maybe, well, no, it does. It does have a lot of high tech stuff in it, but it's it's more old fashioned.
One of the things I really love about this scene, when we pulled the camera back and we're shooting Batman from far away, almost like we're in the gangster's position, any of the effects look like kind of mythical, like he's flying or he's gliding or he makes smoke come from anywhere, and then we'll do a close-up shot, kind of almost like it's from Batman's perspective, showing how he's doing that. And I think that's a great way to show the two different sides of, like, these people interpret him as an urban myth and aren't sure how they're supposed to view him and, you know, what exactly he is. And then we've got Batman showing, kind of from Batman's perspective, showing, yeah, I just press this button and the grapple gun releases me. I think that's such a cool way of shooting it.
Yeah, if we left him in the background and we followed another character more as our point of view character, like Knox or like Vicky Vale, which is, I don't know. I was going to say that's kind of how the first draft, with Sam Hamm's first draft, does it, but it's not, because his Bruce Wayne, we do get more in his head and have more of a sense of who he is, and it feels more like a person, but also Vicky and Knox are both more front and center, and they kind of get character arcs. So it's sort of almost like a three-man story, kind of three protagonists. But anyway, some of that I think might be what you're talking about, might be more effective if we didn't get anything from Batman's perspective at all, if he was more like the boogeyman and we spent the whole movie wondering if we could trust him or not, because that's kind of the way Tim Burton describes him, but we are maybe with him too much.
I agree. I think you and I have talked about this. I think Tim Burton definitely wanted to go into this movie with that idea, but there are maybe a couple parts that maybe it was studio mandated, hey, we got to get more Bruce Wayne, or maybe it was him not having that same vision at the time of trying to get certain things into the movie. But I think
I don't know how much of that's retroactive when he says that. I don't know how much of that is explaining a thing that people complain about, or if he really was thinking that. The Axis sign there, I've always loved. That looks like a comic book cover to me.
It really. We don't get enough neon in Batman anymore, and I love anything that looks like a neon sign with Batman. It's such
Which
a
is funny, because that's
contrast.
what I mean. A lot of people complain about that with Schumacher. Like, oh no, there's too much neon.
Which is weird, because I love that, especially when you think of what Gotham would become in a Neo Gotham with a Batman Beyond. It would, you know, to me it makes so much sense that there would be neon there to begin with. But that's
true.
That's going way forward past 89.
I don't know why, and we are not going to do this with those movies. I don't know why Ace Chemicals was changed to Axis, especially because they kept the Monarch Theater.
Yeah, especially when they don't do anything cool or thematic with Axis. You know, they don't. None
It's
of
just
the
a
logos
name.
none of the logos have anything to do with an Axis. None of the character moments that take place at Axis happen to do with, he's been turned on a different Axis area, anything like that. It just seems like change for the sake of change, like Star City to Starling City.
So I probably brought this up before, but Bruce, I don't know, that's not a great tie. It's not a great tie. I'm not in love with that tie. I've brought this up before, but I gotta say it again. One of the weirdest lines in this whole movie is when Bruce says, "Did you have trouble finding the house?"
Especially since she's been here before.
She was just there!
You're right. That tie looks like a bad rug.
The can you pass the salt scene is one of my favorite things in movies because it's so weird. I don't know why Alfred would set this up. I don't know why they're on opposite sides of this table. It's strange. Sarah, my wife and I, there are a couple things that we quote from this movie constantly, and one of them, if we ever go to a restaurant with a big group and we find ourselves at opposite ends of the table, we do this scene. We do it every time. Can you pass the salt?
I would love if he...
I don't think I've ever been in this room before! We do it every time.
I would love if he literally just passed her the salt and threw it like a football. I think that
or slid it across the table like he was bowling?
Yeah. Knocks over all the wine glasses and gets a strike or a 7-10 split.
See, there are a few places where I think Alfred is just trolling him.
He's setting him up for failure.
You can't blame Bruce for that. That's Alfred. Maybe that's a joke from Alfred where it's like, yeah, don't jump in the sack right away, Bruce. I gotta put these things 20 feet away.
Save enough room for Jesus and the 12 disciples.
I love that scene so much. I mean, that's one of the best examples of what you're talking about, where like the flaws are some of what makes this movie so much fun.
I don't know if
That
I
is
see that as
just
a flaw with that.
Well,
with the
but I don't
table
understand
scene.
it either.
I think what it's supposed to be doing is showing that Bruce is a little impersonal and a little awkward and isn't comfortable.
But he
in
didn't
social
set that
situations.
table up. Unless he did. If he did, if we saw him setting that table, I completely agree with you. But if Alfred did that, that tells us nothing about that character.
True.
Especially because he said he's never been in that room before, and that might have been a joke, but if it wasn't just a joke, and there was some truth to it, he didn't set that up, and that says nothing about his eccentricity at all.
I like to think that there are multiple rooms in Wayne Manor that he has never been in, but he built this entire Batcave underneath it. Like, he didn't think to explore the house already to see if, hey, you know, this room might make for a great Batcave. No, I gotta put it literally in a cave.
I've also never understood... that's great. I've also never understood why Alfred makes different food.
Yeah, I don't know if that's supposed to be like a separation of the guests from the help, or if it was just something where Alfred normally prepares one meal for Bruce, or he was trying to prepare multiple courses for them and just didn't want what they were having. But it just feels kind of like there's a separation of who, you know, there are two dynamics, and I don't know if that's putting on a play for, you know, Vicky, or if, because I never get that impression in any of the four films in this continuity that Bruce sees him as anything other than a family member or a father figure.
I completely agree with that. And that's his most human moments in this film and beyond are with Alfred.
Absolutely. I think that's the most consistent thing with every Batman movie is his best moments tend to be with Alfred.
So this scene has also always been odd to me because I always try to imagine what exactly the plastic surgeon did. Like, I assume that he must have... that the plastic surgeon must be the reason that his face is stuck in a perpetual smile, and that he probably isn't why he's white-faced and red-lipped and green-haired. That's the assumption I'm making.
Yeah, I don't... Now that you explain it, you don't see anything on his face that looks like scars from any kind of surgery. It just looks like he fell in chemicals and his face turned into that. I don't know why we've got, you know, the crime doctor from Batman the Animated Series here working on his face when it makes no sense.
I feel bad for that surgeon. Like, I guess I say I feel bad for him. I sympathize with him when he gives that look and he's like, "You see what I have to work with?" You're like, "Yeah, that sucks, dude." But at the same time, I'm like, I want to know his story. I want somebody to write a one shot where we find out like he got drummed out of medical school, or he was like, I mean, he's an older guy. Maybe he was working at a hospital for a lot of years and he had like a malpractice suit, or he was doing some things that were unethical, and then he wound up in this place and he has to work for the mob. And then you could do a story where it's like, yeah, and then you could do a story that's like him versus Leslie Tompkins. That'd be good.
That would. I forget what exactly. I think the Crime Doctor episode of Batman the Animated Series is pretty much just an anti-drug PSA, or maybe that is. That's a. Is that one, or is that a different one? Because there's one where it's a mob boss whose brother gets hit by a truck. I can't remember. I'm blanking.
I thought those were the same episode. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Maybe
I've done a commentary on that, but on the last one you mentioned. But
yeah,
those murals are really interesting.
Yeah, on the well, we've got this one, and then we've got the one from the meeting coming up with all the different mob bosses. I just love all of the artwork in this, you know, in the scenery here. We've got this beautiful Art Deco Gothic architecture, and then we've got these beautiful paintings that look like a mix of like Renaissance era like realism with some of that Art Deco stylization. It's such a beautiful mix. It really makes it stand out as something that you can't really pinpoint to one time.
It's crazy to think how much visual detail is put in a movie like this with a story that ultimately doesn't really make a lot of sense and isn't about as much as you wish it was.
Yeah, it seems to be Tim Burton's thing is style over substance.
Absolutely, yeah.
So one thing I think is interesting, our first introduction to both Batman and the Joker, not Jack Napier, we're very far away from them, they're hidden in shadow, and we don't really get a good look of them immediately.
Sure, yeah. Which is funny because the trailers showed them completely in all their glory. Like, we already knew what these characters look like.
Yeah, so that's just another instance of the marketing team behind the trailers not really knowing what the filmmakers were trying to do with the introductions of these characters, which seems to be a trend that Hollywood can't get past.
But also maybe you needed that in order to sell it.
Oh, definitely, especially when you've got so much worry about Michael Keaton as Batman, or, you know, I don't think anybody was too worried about Jack Nicholson.
Oh no, Jack
Joker.
Sold it. That's what gave it validity. Yeah. Yeah,
kind of that. They talk about it being kind of the Marlon Brando in Superman thing of you've got your legitimate actor to bring people in. It's like, oh, this is a film. This isn't just some kind of.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Kind of it's just superhero. No, it's a film before it's about the superhero.
When I was a kid, I wanted Michael Keaton's eyebrows so bad.
Man, they're so expressive.
Yeah, and just like super mysterious, and yeah, I was trying to make his serious face when I was a kid all the time.
He's such an unconventional choice for Batman, and he doesn't look like what I would picture a Bruce Wayne to look like in my head. I totally buy it with him, even when he's hanging upside down.
I mean, I buy it for this character that we called Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, in the context of this, I completely buy this. I don't look at it as like, that's not what Batman would look like to me. For this, I completely buy it, and I really, really like him as Batman.
So you got all this blood on the newspaper, but we never see anybody bleed in this movie?
No, the only time we see someone actually bleeding is Joker when he gets hit in the face with the whatever exploded off that Inaxis chemicals. We never see someone bleed from a gunshot.
Yeah, Batman has like some, and Joker both in the third act have some blood on their face, but...
Right, but never when someone gets shot that you would think they'd be bleeding heavily.
That's right.
They actually bleed, which I guess that's the limitations of being PG-13, which seems to still be the case. We can show a whole lot, but as long as they're not bleeding.
If Vicky Vale wants to show Bruce Wayne some photos, hey Bruce, what hobby might you have that you can show Vicky some things from? Nothing? Okay.
I've got this great dining area that I've only seen once. I've got this great collection of antique armor. But, you know, nothing
because I bought them in Japan.
Exactly. I like to think that there's just shops in Japan where you can go buy old, like, feudal armor. It's like Armor R Us.
That's great. As distanced as we are from Bruce Wayne, I think that that they have about as much chemistry as you possibly could expect them to.
Yeah, I buy that there's an attraction between the two.
I like Basinger and Keaton together, and I don't feel like it's just a money thing. It helps that, like I think it's with her something of an eccentric thing of he's weird and interesting, and she's already odd because she's obsessed with Batman, and nobody else seems willing to go after that like she is. Like people don't buy it, and she thinks there's got to be something to it. It's obviously too easy that the first person she starts dating in Gotham is Batman, and she's after Batman. You know, like that. That's pretty easy. But it also helps. In assuming that she's not just after him for his money, that she's doing pretty well for herself, because apparently her photography career can pay for that apartment.
Well, this is a time where print media, you know, obviously in the time it was made, as well as the timeless nature that they're going for here, would have been a much more lucrative and much more viable career.
Absolutely, but if Gotham is anything like New York, there's no way she gets a place that big.
No. That's just something you have to deal with all kinds of...
That's a movie trope.
Anything set in a big area. You know, I don't know how anyone from Friends...
I was going to say,
Monica
Friends
has the rent controlled.
One of the most notorious... Yeah. So listen to this sound effect here, because the joy buzzer is like lasers in cartoons, and it's the best.
And I was just watching Space Ghost the other day, and that laser sound effect is in there.
That's the power bands.
It's so great. Oh, man. I'd love to get a buzzer like that. Not one that actually does that, obviously, but Just a buzzer that makes that sound effect. That would be such a cool toy to get from this movie.
The thing I've always wanted, and that I can't believe has never been released, I can't find one licensed anyway. I've always wanted the laughing balloon at the end.
Oh, see, for the thumbnails for these videos, I was trying to find a good picture of those balloons. It's so hard.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean the balloons. I said balloon. I mean the bag, the laughing bag that's laughing
okay.
when he hits the ground. They never made one. When I was a kid, I always wanted that.
Man, with all the merchandise they made based on, on this movie, they didn't do a whole lot with the toys. There's, the 3 Kenner
I had
figures.
the entire line. There were 3 of them. I had all the play sets. There was one of those, and the Batcave play set was retooled, repainted like 4 times for other sets.
Which is the story of Kenner. It's funny because once you get to some of the later ones, they're going really toyetic with it. And I remember having a toy that was Bruce Wayne, and you could put the cowl and put the suit on him on the figure.
Well, 89 had that, and I said there were 3 figures. That was another one they did. The initial line had 3, and then I don't know if they just released that after that. I don't know what that was, because I know there was one of those with 89, and then there was one with Batman Returns. I don't know, maybe that didn't come out till Returns, but I thought it was the same figure that they just repackaged twice.
I think it's Returns, because a while ago I was looking up toys that I had when I was a child that I was trying to, buy back if they were cheap enough, and that was one of them. And I think it's packaged with Returns stuff, like it's got the Returns logo. It's got
weird, because all I know is I had it twice, and I thought I had it from 2 lines, but it might be that a couple different people gave it to me when it came out. That makes a lot more sense, because that first wave with 89 only had 3 toys, and I didn't think there were other waves after that. I mean, you had the Batman, who had the belt that came out of that had a line that came out of the belt, and then which is of course not how that utility belt works. He has a grapple gun, and then because every toy had to have a gimmick, and then those things were notorious because the bat symbol would wear off over time. And nobody played with those for any amount of time and still had the bat symbol later. The only way you see that now is if somebody put it on a shelf and never played with it, or if you find one in package.
Yeah, that's the case with almost every Kenner Batman toy I ever had growing up, because I had tons of them. My grandparents would buy me tons of them because I was obsessed with Batman the Animated Series.
Do you still have your stuff?
I've got 1 or 2 that I had when I was younger. My cousin got them and they disappeared. I have rebought a lot of stuff still in the package, but
cool.
A lot of that stuff I remember, like, paint was so thin, like pieces of Robin's hair would be flesh toned underneath because they had gotten rubbed so much from being moved and hit against other
I was going to
figures.
say it might be fun to compare collections at some point, but because I've got all my stuff from when I was a kid. I don't have anything in package anymore. I used to collect that way, and I've taken everything out since then. But
yeah, man, I've got a few Batman figures that I still have from when I originally had them. I wish I had more of them, but the ones that I still got in package, the only reason I haven't taken them out is because they're expensive. Like the the only version of the Batman the Animated Series figure that came with the color accurate bat suit is like, I think I spent over $100 on it, and I kind of, if it didn't mean so much,
no, you can't take that out. Absurd. Not if you spent that much. Yeah,
no, absolutely not.
No, and I've never bought any of that stuff later. I mean, some of it, all the stuff I had when I was a kid, and I kept some of that in package, and then I opened it years later. But they've become worth a lot more even since I opened them. I probably wouldn't do that now. I opened some stuff back in like 05, 06. I want to make an objective statement, which is the hat Vicky Vale wears in this scene is really cute on her.
No, I'm with you. I dig the look of Vicky Vale in this movie. I think she's, obviously it's Kim Basinger. She's attractive. I think she looks great in this movie.
So can I ask you a really stupid question?
Yeah, go ahead. That's what this is about.
This is going to be a really stupid question. So his parents were murdered in an alley behind a movie theater. That is not an alley.
No, that's like an open area
in front of a hotel.
Yeah, right.
I don't understand why he leaves the roses there.
I don't get it either. I think we'll have to pay more attention when we get the flashback. that doesn't even look like the same area that in that flashback we see him shooting. There, his parents.
No, and we're told it is an alley. Like,
Yeah,
not only do we see it there, but it's confirmed in dialogue. His parents were murdered in that alley. That's not an alley.
No, and the way
And
that building is shaped, it kind of wraps around. And if I'm remembering it correctly, that flashback of young Jack Napier, it's like there's a light source behind him. Like it's a straight, narrow alley.
I mean, I always assumed that light source was just because they were being stylistic and that's how they shot it. You know, I don't want to overthink that, but no, that I'm pretty sure that's part of just that kind of town square area that hilariously has every important building in Gotham in it. Where across from that you've got the mayor's office, what's it called, the town hall, and then you've got the Monarch Theater, and you've got the Flugelheim Museum, and just everything is right there. And that Gotham feels really tiny for that big skyline shot we got.
If there's one thing you can say about the architects in Gotham, they are very efficient at putting everything as close together as it can be, so you don't really need to drive.
No, and I mean, it's cool that they built all that and they put it all together like that, but I would shoot it more spread out.
I would too. I would try to find some...
It's like a western town.
Bigger. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. It's like, you know, there's going to be a duel at high noon. Joker's going to be at Monarch Theater. Batman will be at Town Hall. And they'll be looking right across from each other.
So has it occurred to you that this Joker has some things in common with the 60s Batman Riddler? Like, he switches costumes a lot. That's not always a Joker thing. That's more of a Riddler thing.
No, Joker, usually from artist to artist, you know, each artist only draws him kind of in one costume. He doesn't really switch out a whole bunch.
But this is like, we are what, like almost an hour in? He's had 3 different looks already.
Yeah, and each time you see him, even with his normal makeup, he's got a different suit on. He'll have a different tie. He'll have a different, you know, checkered, you know, pattern.
And by the way, even as a kid, I wasn't really scared of him in makeup, but when he quote air quotes takes it off, he's horrifying.
No, I'm with you. I think he looks more terrifying with the normal skin complexion, you know, if that's supposed to be makeup, than the pasty white look. It's just, I think that's a more shocking, you know, visual than comic book traditional Joker.
Danny, I have a question for you. Harvey Dent, can he be trusted?
Well, I believe in him. I don't know if that means I trust him. I trust him half the time.
I've always been a sucker for villains who blow up TVs.
Oh, it's such a great... I love that his is the boxing glove just on this spring-loaded gun type of thing. I love that. That's a nice library.
It is. I'd love to have a library like that. That's super cool.
My grandfather used to have a big set of encyclopedias on a shelf. Obviously not that nice, but it was a pretty nice collection, and I loved it. It was just such a cool look to go through and pull out the W or, you know, this or that.
And I actually have a library in my house, but it's not like that.
It's a Batman library, but it's not Batman's library.
No. I have, but I mean, like, I actually have a room in my house that's just a library.
Oh, really?
But yeah,
I have a bookshelf.
my wife and I are avid book collectors, and well, we've got the Star Trek room that is 3 bookcases of nothing but Star Trek books, and then we have a library which is where my son, who we homeschool, does his schoolwork, and it's wall to wall bookcases, and we finally got IKEA and went all the way up to the ceiling.
Man, that's so awesome. Like,
I'll send you a picture sometime. Yeah, it's really cool.
I've gotten more... It's weird. I don't like digital comics, but I read a lot of the books I read are digital.
It's cheaper, sure.
That and I don't know.
Maybe you just don't have the space.
That and it's easier to keep track of what page I'm on rather than needing to pull out a bookmark from different.
Though, if you were Vicky Vale, you'd have the space.
Yeah.
You'd have no problem. You could put all kinds of comics in that place.
Oh, man,
although it doesn't look like practical space, right? Like, she's basically living in another wing of the Flugelheim Museum, if you really think about it.
Yeah, she's got a nice window to look out of. She's got a room with a view. And she's got a fireplace mantle to set popcorn on.
The black turtleneck looks really good on her too. Kim Basinger was a knockout, man.
I agree. Something I just now noticed that I've never noticed before. They're setting up the nerve gas, creating the rigor mortis smile on that CIA document.
Yes.
I've never paid attention to those photos before to see that they're creating that, that Joker-esque smile.
See, I always say you notice something new every time you watch this movie, and even though it's not a totally dense and even and even completely cohesive story, visually there's always going to be something you don't notice. We'll see if that happens every commentary. That's Danny's first big one.
Yeah, so that can be what we keep track of, is the big revelations.
Yeah, just things we never noticed before. I had never picked up on those statues toward the beginning outside of City Hall with where they're holding the world behind. I never noticed those before.
Yeah, the Atlas Shrugged kind of thing of holding the world on your shoulders, which, if you were to look, more thematically into it, is that supposed to represent, the duality of Batman and Bruce Wayne trying to do that? Or is it just, hey, it looks cool? And I'm leaning more towards the, hey, it looks cool.
Me too. Did you ever notice that Bob's got a big scar on one side of his face?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that Bob origin movie where we get the explanation for why he's got that scar.
Why does he have that scar? Yeah. Bob Gunn. So I question the placement of certain scenes in this movie and organization. I don't know if I would put this scene here. This guy is so cartoony, by the way. This guy at the chemical plant, but yeah,
I'm with you.
I think you're watching that, and maybe the point of it is supposed to be like, what exactly is Joker doing? But it was a lot of viewings before I even noticed the correlation between what he's doing there and he's been poisoning, Gotham with all these products. Like, I guess I should have, but I didn't really put it together.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've ever really put together that the room he's cutting up all the pictures in is at Axis Chemicals.
Me neither.
I've always just, for some reason, there's that mental block of, we're going from one scene to the next, so it's at a different location.
I wonder if some people, it doesn't even occur to them that the chemical plant that he's doing this at is the one that he got dropped in the vat at and that he took it over.
I think if you went to a screening of this movie and interviewed people coming out and asked them if they knew where he was making all these products, they wouldn't be able to tell you. Because it's not really something that's made a big point of. It's just, he's also here.
Yeah, and I don't mean that we should hold people's hands, of course. I just think that there are things that aren't communicated real well in this movie, and that it's made more difficult because it's not as character driven as it should be, and as I would argue that it's even kind of pretending like it is. And so if you're more invested just in the cool look and atmosphere of this movie and not the people that are driving it forward, you might miss a lot of plot stuff.
Yeah, I think this is a movie, if I was just to watch it and kind of passively watch it, I don't know if I would catch on to a lot of the things that need to be communicated for the story to make as much sense as it does.
as it ultimately can. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't want to say that's a problem because that would be me passively watching it and not paying attention, but some things definitely need to be communicated more effectively if they're meant to be a big plot point, like where he's making the chemical, or making the chemical that goes into all these products, which is, where he was. If it
on any level wants to tell a story, it's a problem if you have to work that hard. Because if you were just invested in what's going on, you wouldn't be. It wouldn't feel like work.
Yeah, it should really just, in a perfect world,
I want that phone to be red.
Your attention.
I wish that phone was red.
I'm with you. I get that they're trying to get away from any kind of Batman 66 reference, but there are enough things in this that I feel, whether it's on purpose or not, feel inspired by 66. There should be more stuff like that. Maybe not a red phone here.
Yeah, there's a bust in Grissom's office that reminds me a lot of the Shakespeare head.
See, that's one that I think you could get away with anywhere and it not feel silly.
No, and also, we do Dutch angles with some of the villain stuff, and...
We do Dutch angles in the Flugelheim, don't we? When
Yeah,
they're
we
painting
do.
Everything?
Yeah, that comes right out of 60s Batman. Now, you could argue 60s Batman kind of popularized that, and now movies like this tend to do that. Maybe it wasn't even thinking of that when it did it, but I don't know.
Wasn't it invented for that show, the Dutch tilt?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah,
But
okay.
that influenced movies after that. And so it's possible that got so ingrained in the culture that this movie does it without even realizing it's doing it.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying now.
That's the point I'm trying to make. One question I would put on the questionnaire of people seeing this movie for the first time is, do you understand why those news anchors aren't wearing makeup and have acne and stuff? Because it was a long time before I picked up on that as well.
Yeah, do you think that could have been benefited by like a behind the scenes before they're about to go film, like the makeup lady saying, "Yeah, no, we can't put any makeup on you for a safety reason," or do you think that's kind of
I would love that. I think it'd be great if the lady like sits down in the makeup chair and they're like, "Yeah, the makeup lady, we didn't even call her to work today." 'Cause...
yeah, unless you want a permanent smile, unless
Right.
you want to go out with a smile, we can't put any makeup on you.
So, I'll get this out of the way fast because I always talk about this, and maybe I won't mention it again in later commentaries, but you never know. So she's gonna be 10 minutes late meeting him at the museum. Oh, hey, I'm not meeting her today. Oh, I should probably go there and find out what's going on. Why does it take Batman so long to get there? I'll never understand that.
Yeah, he's got a 10-minute head start. He should be rushing right down there.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about this more when we get to the one where we're talking about the influence this movie has had on pop culture since then. But at Six Flags Over Texas, they've got a section dedicated to DC Comics and the Batman rides and everything, their theme like that. And a lot of the design...
Have you been down there?
Oh, it's an hour and a half from where I live, 2 hours. So we go there a lot on vacation.
Oh, that's cool.
A lot of the architecture and stuff is very reminiscent of like the Flugelheim and Axis Chemicals, and I think because I associate it so much with my childhood of going there, that has to be why I love this look. Because anytime I see a new establishing shot for this this movie, I'm just immediately in love with the architecture. Because this museum looks just beautiful. It is so classy. I would love to go to a museum that actually looks like this.
Oh, me too. And I don't think I've ever been to a museum that has a restaurant and where you can eat there and stuff.
We've got a local, like, art kind of, not necessarily a museum, but like art showcase place in our town that's got a museum, that's got a restaurant as well as the art curated stuff. They're separated, kind of like this. Yeah, it's not so much a museum. It's got some stuff like that, but I think it's a cool thing to be able to go downtown, sit and drink coffee and look at some really cool art or some really cool sculptures.
Danny, when I finally come see you in person, that's what we should do. We should go to Six Flags.
Oh, absolutely. They've got a life-size model of this film's Batmobile, which is right outside of the Batman ride. It is so cool to see in person.
That's really cool. Now, I've actually seen one of the real cars in person.
Oh, well, then it won't be as cool because I'm pretty sure it's just a shell.
But that's still neat.
Yeah, it is definitely my favorite Batmobile of all time. I don't think anything tops this film's Batmobile. Except for Lawrence, of course, with his...
Yes, of course. There's Lawrence. I love Lawrence. You ever notice the guy with the paintbrush in his mouth?
No, I haven't.
He's got paintbrush in his mouth. These guys are having a really good time.
This had to have been one of the most fun scenes to shoot because you can just...
I would think, yeah.
Go crazy and do anything. Especially
This feels like, all by itself, a kind of 60s Joker plot where he's just going to go, like, mess up a museum, and you'd think, like, the plot for that would probably be, like, the Joker's going to make it so that none of these paintings are worth anything. And I like how perverse it ends up feeling in this context.
Yeah, it's if you think about it, it's one of the more, like, innocent kind of prankster type of Joker things to do, but it's so, like, in the context of everything else he's doing, and with him creating Alicia kind of...
But that on top of the, like, homicidal art idea, which I really wish we
Right.
brought kind of more to the forefront. Because, I mean, we talk about it a lot, and I guess that's what he thinks he's doing in... like randomly killing a lot of people with a smile on their face throughout the city. But the I don't know, the artist idea, I think we could have done more with, and I'll try not to talk too much about this, and just comparing this to the first draft script, because every movie has a first draft that's not, for better or worse, not what the movie actually ends up being. But Sam Hamm's original draft does bring that more to the fore, and all the stuff that I've talked about in previous videos before I read that, where I thought, it feels like this movie should be about 80s materialism, that's exactly what it was. Originally, that is the thematic through line and the social commentary, and it is too bad that more of that isn't, because it feels like a backdrop before it feels like it's saying anything about that.
Right, that could make, especially for this time, would have made for such a really interesting, like, thought-provoking Batman movie to do, of a guy with so much wealth and with so many, you know, bat-brained gadgets, to then have a villain who is, you know, talking about that 80s materialism type of, you know, everything, you gotta have this or you gotta have that.
That's a really good point.
That's such an interesting, you know, contrast to Batman, to really tell a neat story, especially in this time period.
Yeah, and weirdly, this Joker and Batman, I feel like, in some ways, kind of have more in common than Joker and Batman usually do.
Yeah, I think that's got to be intentional with Tim Burton's idea of trying to lead the audience in the direction of, is Batman just as crazy as the Joker in this film? Is he not necessarily a good guy? Is he kind of
and how out of touch is he?
Yeah, because
you know,
the one thing
the idea that
Bruce Wayne is he's so out of touch and kind of quirky without really noticing it.
Yeah, and you know, is he in touch at all with his humanity? Like is he going out at night and fighting criminals because he's trying to make sure, like in the comics, that never happens to another kid again, or is it because in a different way he never got over his parents' murder and he just snapped, and this is what he does. This is his coping mechanism. Is Bruce Wayne's parents' murder exactly the equivalent of Joker falling in the vat of acid?
Yeah, and you said that in the first draft, he's kind of a more like, Batman's more of a release for him, right? Like, he's more loving what he's doing.
He enjoys what he's doing.
Yeah,
it's very Frank Miller. Yeah,
I think there's definitely some remnants of that in this one, or in the final.
But he doesn't. But that version doesn't feel like he's as out of touch with humanity as maybe he is in this one, which is interesting. Because when he's Bruce Wayne, he feels more like a guy.
In the first draft?
In the first draft, yeah. No, certainly not in this. I mean, he's basically the same guy all the time. Would you argue this is definitely, and different from animated series, but I think animated series built on this idea, this is very much the Bruce Wayne that thinks of himself as Batman, and Bruce Wayne is kind of not even a thing for him.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is what a lot of people would look at when they think, yeah, no, Batman is the person, Bruce Wayne is the mask, because maybe Michael Keaton is aware of this when he's doing the performance, but he feels like he's portraying Bruce Wayne as very uncomfortable, and Batman is a little more not loose, but comfortable in, you know, his own skin, or, you know, his own bat suit.
Yeah, there's this almost kind of like sarcastic thing he does with his face when he's in the bat suit.
Yeah, he's got that, like, little half grin going on sometimes. Especially when we get that first "I'm Batman" thing. He's got a little bit of a smirk on his face. Like, he enjoys saying, yeah, I'm Batman.
It's great. One of my favorite things that Kim Basinger does is her reaction to the Joker when he says, when he asks if he looks like he's joking. She's like, I don't know, actually.
It's a toss-up. And here is our first shot of the Batmobile, which I already talked about a little bit, but man, it is such a beautiful Batmobile.
I mean, just hands down, it's the best that we've ever had.
Oh,
by
absolutely.
a lot.
Like,
You just don't get better than this car. And I know everybody has their preference, and some of it is certainly nostalgia for me, but I think this car, but I don't think it's anything like outdated. Like, this doesn't look like anything, right? Like,
no, it looks completely timeless.
It could come from 80 years ago, or it could come from 80 years in the future, even now.
Right,
and I love that about it. It's got that. One of the big things that made me a Batman fan in the first place, I think, is it was the symbol, and then it was the car, and then it was the actual character himself.
No, I'm with you. Like, the Batmobile has always been something I've been drawn to, ironically, because I'm not a car guy. But I love that this has that long, area, the hood.
Fuselage?
Long hood. Yeah, fuselage. That screams like classic car that we don't make anymore just for, it's not practical to make it super long like that. But it feels like it's pulling from the past while also not just being derivative of a different kind of an older classic kind of a car. Like some of the early interpretations of the Batmobile are where it's just this car with a bat head at the front of it.
Well, and it goes so... Wait a minute, did I see that? I wish I could pause it. Did he have a bat symbol on the brake?
Oh my god.
We've got to look for it next time, Danny.
I hope it's like the classic like foot-shaped foot pedal, but each toe is a bat symbol.
I love all the gimmicks that the Batmobile has. That's a thing, of course, that it has in common with the 60s car. But obviously, in the comics, the Batmobile does a lot of different things, too. But, like, shooting out the line to be able to make that curve sharper, like, that's a very 60s thing to do.
It is such a great attention to detail for a car that's that long going at that speed that he needs a way to be able to turn smoothly.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think that's very much akin to the parachutes out the back.
Yeah, but I love that this Batmobile has that armor that just shells over it. It's such a cool
Did you
look.
notice? Michael Keaton seems to be struggling to find the grapple on his belt. Like, he can't look down. He's just moving his hand back and forth. How much do you weigh?
Did I leave that in the back? Did Alfred not put it on me? Oh crap. It's like, some people forget to grab their keys, other people forget to grab their grappling gun.
See, a part of me, when we do the quote-along commentary, wants to be Vicky Vale just so I can do that scream. I will finally be vindicated for how irritating that scream was when I was a kid by getting to do it. Like, it's just a part of the thing I'm used to it by now, but when I was a kid, I was like, stop screaming!
I'll let you do it if I ended up being the one to do Vicky Vale's voice.
Because the way we've been talking about it, I think at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to be Vicky Vale.
Probably. Especially if we're going to keep with the idea of one person doing both Batman and Joker.
Yeah. See, this was an idea we had because of the fact that if we split up Batman and the Joker, there's too many exchanges that we would have to do to get... The same person would have to do the whole exchange. Batman and the Joker don't actually talk together that much.
No, the only time that would really come up is
right at the end.
Maybe one or two scenes in with all the mimes, and then obviously in the third act.
Yeah, this guy's hilarious.
John Peters' favorite scene of the entire movie.
This is where we get a really good sense that Batman doesn't actually have a lot of martial arts training, and it's all a matter of minimalism and of he's just being scary, and I think he relies really hard on intimidation.
Yeah, I think that scene works a whole lot better if we only have that one kick and kind of that Clint Eastwood way of... That's true,
because he is blocking a lot of stuff. Like, I guess he knows how to do things, but how much of it is the outfit before it's anything he's actually able to do, right? Like, I want to know if this Bruce Wayne out of costume could take that guy.
Yeah, and you don't get the sense of that. And in that scene in particular, it really shows off how unflexible that suit is. And I think they would have benefited from less is more in that instance of hiding the weaknesses that come with that suit, like Michael Keaton does with how he moves his body since he can't turn his head. I never, when I watched this, thought, why isn't he turning his head?
Me neither.
He makes a performance out of it.
Yeah, he really makes it work. And there are a lot of kind of inferences you can make just based on how constricted that costume is, and things that are kind of minimal because of that. This is the fakest thing in the whole movie. These trees.
If you didn't know it was a Tim Burton movie before this, you certainly know it now.
Yeah, this looks like every Tim Burton movie after this. He's going to pass the tree that gets you into Halloween Town.
It's funny you bring that up because in 2 weeks, I'm actually going to a Comic-Con where Jack Skellington, the voice actor for Jack Skellington, is going to be there.
Well, that's awesome.
So, yeah. And as well as Helen Slater. So it's going to be a really fun Comic-Con.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking of doing some sketches of some of the guests that are going to be there and getting them to sign it.
Oh, you should. That would be really cool.
And
you'll have to show this to us.
Oh, definitely. And here we've got, the really fake Tim Burton trees contrasted with actual scenery.
Yeah, we have actual location shooting. We teleported to some cartoon plays, and now we're back in a real life forest.
That was the Batmite dimension, and there's just this little portal at parts of Gotham City, or on the outskirts of Gotham City, where it's just dominated by Batmite, and he changes how everything looks. So I've always misremembered this scene, and I always thought when he turns that light on, he also sprays a gas that knocks her out before she comes into this Batcave, kind of the traditional...
The 60s thing.
Yeah. So... Obviously, that doesn't happen because...
And then he uses Batwake, and he wakes her up. But I can see why you would think that, because she looks like when she gets out of the car, that she has to kind of, like shake herself back to reality or something.
Well, if you saw this, you would have to do the same thing if you weren't accustomed to Batman.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, and I'm not even saying that that's a problem in the performance, because it's not that she's just now waking up. It's that I thought we were going to die going through the wall, and now I'm just, recuperating from that.
I love how comically high up that one chair up there is, and he has to climb all the way up there just to go sit down.
Yeah!
There's no relaxation to be had in the Batcave. You've got to work to sit down.
Yeah, and you have to walk way too far to go anyplace.
Oh my god, he's got...
It's a great set,
duh. Obviously, he's got hygiene supplies right there because he's going over the chemicals. I thought for some reason he was brushing his teeth at the Batcave.
You have to put that on your list of things you never noticed before. Oh, he's got hygiene products!
Well, in my mind, I was just thinking, Alfred's a stickler for clean teeth and brought that down there because he knows Batman's a night owl.
No, Batman! Don't mix the mouthwash with the toothpaste! No!
One or the other. One or the other.
This movie ended really early. I don't...
And so lies Batman. He died not because of crime fighting, but because he was too hygienic.
I always thought it was a really bold choice to put Vicky in the Batsuit after this.
Yeah, and now that I'm seeing this, I get where Iron Man 3 got the idea.
Sure. I always liked that Batman's face is kept so much in shadow in the scene. It's this really strange realism in the middle of a really comic book heightened thing where if she looked directly at him in the light, it works fine in this context. But she doesn't! He's always completely in shadow. This is one of the most realistic scenes, I think, going all the way up till now, where I buy that the person he's talking to would not know that's Bruce Wayne.
No, I'm with you. I love how he shines the light on her to keep her from being able to see his face. I love how he stays in the shadows. I love all of that.
And I also really love the bit in the car when she's looking right in his eyes and trying to see if she can place him, and he keeps moving his head.
Yeah, it's well, I guess turning his whole body because he can't move just his head.
That's true. He's just turning his eyes like don't look at me. Stop it.
He's got to be thinking in his head, I got to start wearing colored contacts while I'm Batman, just in case someone gets a good look at my eyes.
Also a really bold choice that for a minute you would try to make us think that Batman would take advantage of a woman in the Batcave. I still kind of can't believe they went there. Well, Tim Burton, maybe I'm not that surprised, but...
Yeah, I don't really like that choice. It's not one that I would... It's not one that I would make.
Or if you're gonna do that, make it kind of more of a turning point than it is, right? Because we're supposed to wonder, again, all the way through this, if he really is the good guy, I think, to some degree. And maybe it should play a little bit more, once she says, oh, he took the film, and he's sent the report of what he's learned about the hygiene supplies, to the newspaper. Like now, unequivocally, he is the hero.
Yeah, and that idea of did he or did he not would work better if at the beginning of the film they're not sleeping in the same bed together.
That's a really good... Yeah, good call! Like, he's already got a physical relationship with this woman. She just doesn't know that it's the same guy. I never thought of that.
Yeah, because if
why
it's a
would
thing
you
where...
do that in that scene where it's like, oh my god, Batman might have done something really uncouth with this... What? Wait a minute, and I'm not saying that that would then be okay because he has slept with her before, but it would be a really weird choice if he was a crazy person.
Yeah, because theoretically, all he'd have to do is take off the mask right then and there, say, hey, I'm Bruce Wayne, and then off scene, they go and do that. It feels like an unnecessary thing that doesn't think of what has happened before it, trying to make a point, or trying to put a thought in your head of, did he or didn't he? And I don't know if it works in the film the way it's supposed to.
No, it's provocative, but I think kind of for no reason.
Yeah, it's I don't want to say tasteless, but it's kind of needless. Like it doesn't have a clear point of putting forth the idea that it's supposed to be putting forth. It just feels like it's there to be provocative.
Yeah, to just surprise us. Hey, Danny, you know how a normal person makes one commentary on a movie and not 7 in 7 days, and then goes downstairs and kisses someone goodbye?
And then when he wants to watch another movie, he puts in a different movie, maybe the sequel to that movie, or a completely different movie. But no, we're going to put the same movie on 7 times in a row.
He puts in a different movie.
Oh, man. I just love this speech so much.
I love it so much. And this is the other thing that my wife and I are quoting constantly, and Eric and I quote this all the time, too. You know how a normal person... And I just love Vicky's reaction when she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
I love that her first reaction is, oh my god, you're married. That's such a nice little touch.
That would be the reaction, too, right?
Yeah. Your first reaction
no,
would be...
it's so much bigger than that. This is where Michael Keaton is suddenly Michael Keaton.
Yeah, you gotta think that this scene in particular, the way it's shot, the way it's acted, was developed after they had cast him. It wasn't something that they had this kind of a scene, this kind of awkward trying to explain it, and then they just went and happened to get Michael Keaton. They would have already had him in mind when you're developing this kind of a scene.
I don't know if Michael Keaton has watched this movie again, and if you would remember the scene. But if I ever got to meet him, I would have a really hard time not walking up to him with a thing to sign and say, you know, a normal person.
You know how a normal person would bring a Batman actor a Batman comic to sign? Well, here's Spawn.
I would have a really hard time not saying that. But yeah, it's weird that suddenly he's in his comedic mode in this scene where it's like, now that we know for sure that he didn't try to take advantage of a woman, now we can laugh with him.
Yeah, now that we know
it's okay.
Now that we know he's a normal person who wakes up and goes downstairs and gets consent, we can laugh with him. It's just...
Yeah, and I'm Batman is interesting because a lot of these movies have the I'm Batman moment after this.
Yeah, and apparently in the original script that they were shooting with, the original line was supposed to be, I am the Knight. I am Batman works so much better, at the opening part where he's dangling the guy off the side of the...
Oh, right. No, not in this scene. That would be ridiculous. Vicky Vale! And then, like, he's waiting for her to come back from the door. I'm the Knight. Hey, Vicky, I'm the Knight. What does that mean? You could have said that in front of the Joker. No one knows what you're talking about!
To get back to the Joker, I like how he's polite enough to ring the doorbell twice before just barging in. Like, he tried to give her a chance to open the door and be nice, but, he's got an assertive personality, so he's got to make sure he can come and set this mask on her mantle.
Well, I was going to say, I think after that, he's kind of being a gentleman, but then I think you lose points for breaking a mask on somebody's mantle.
Well, you lose gentleman points just for breaking and entering in the first place.
That's true. And, I mean, he did, you know what, though? He did bring her a gift. When you go to somebody's house, you should bring it. He did bring her a gift.
Exactly. If you're going to break in, don't steal something, leave something. That's just the polite thing to do. You know, maybe leave a new door since you just broke their first door. Or bring a boombox, or Lawrence. Everyone wants to have a Lawrence.
I mean, everyone wants a Lawrence. Now, I mean, remember, Joker is bringing it through a whole new door.
Oh, setup, payoff. We've just discovered the point of this scene is to pay off the whole new door line from earlier.
A thing I don't understand the point of is Michael Keaton, Bruce Wayne. He's just Michael Keaton in the scene. Can we all agree with that? Bruce Wayne walks over to Joker and he goes, "I know who you are." And then he's going to tell him the whole story of his, being a young criminal. And just for show, I don't know why he does any of this.
No, I don't either, unless it's supposed to be keeping him off his guard and on his toes and trying to distract from the fact that he's about to grab the poker down there. You know, he's trying to kind of the magician's thing where you direct people with your right hand so you can do something with your right hand. I think
that's a better idea if he doesn't telegraph that he knows who he is first.
Yeah. Well, does the line, "I know who you are," that shouldn't mean anything to Joker because he's hijacked television stations already. Yeah, everyone in Gotham knows who he is. If you were watching TV, you saw Joker.
They don't necessarily know that he's Jack Napier, though. He's saying, because then he's going to tell him the story of Jack Napier. Wouldn't he be more off his guard if instead of saying, "I know who you are," he just started with, "I know this guy, bad suit, hurt people." Like, wouldn't you open with that?
Yeah, that's a much better idea of.
I don't know why he just to the Joker is like, I'm gonna set this up where only you and I know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Why? Why does he do that?
It feels like it's just for the audience, so we know that he knows who he is.
I don't know what the point of that, but we would know seconds from that. Well, also, no, that doesn't work because we saw him find that out.
That's right. Okay, it makes even less sense.
We already found. Yeah. Remember chemistry, art, chemistry. I'm only smiling on the outside. I'm only laughing on the outside. My smile is just skin deep.
That's such a great line.
Also, how long was that popcorn on the mantle?
I don't know, but I don't want to eat popcorn that's been sitting for the duration of an entire movie, let alone popcorn that I probably sat on a mantle that I haven't been at the entire scene, and then eat it, because it's just going to be stale and... Oh, man.
Was it just show popcorn? Was it just display popcorn that she had on the mantle? Yeah.
You know how a normal person goes downstairs and has a bowl of fake fruit?
Also, like Eric's point about the gift... Why did he bring that?
I have no idea.
He wasn't planning on... Was he planning on leaving it there and leaving?
I like to think that those flowers had been sitting in that box for so long that they were originally, when they were put in there, fresh flowers. And he just finally got around to taking it over there, and they died in the interim. Like, he's had that planned out since he first saw her.
Like, he killed someone for those flowers, and then, like, waited for them to die, and that's actually, like, a real person's dead hand, but it can't be, because it doesn't look like a real hand.
I was about to say, it looks ceramic, kind of like the mask that Alicia was wearing that he just smashed. And didn't even bother to clean up, so again, less gentleman points for him.
That's true, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that was kind of more terror than being a gentleman, really.
It's more of that homicidal art. Without the homicidal part. And without the art part. It was the
no, he thinks there's a homicide. He shot Bruce Wayne.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's true. Are you watching this movie?
I'm watching not as intently as I should be. I guess because I know he doesn't kill him, I didn't think, homicide.
So, I have a bat cave myself. It's not a cave, it's a basement, because I don't live in a place with a cave. Maybe someday, I'd like to do that. There are 3 things that my bat cave is lacking that are major, major Batman things. I mean, I could use more monitors, certainly, but I need a dinosaur, and I need a giant coin, and I need this vault!
Man, this vault would be so cool. Especially if you can only fit one item in there. Just put the most, absurd suit in there, or the most mundane suit in there,
it's already sometimes impractical and kind of silly that Batman, you know, being in a cave that's just for him, and he obviously doesn't have people over, has all these costumes on display, but have one vault for your one suit, that you would only have one suit. Like, they make a point of that in Batman Forever. It's like, look at the 5 or 7 behind it.
Maybe he's worried of, like, bats getting in there and messing up the suit and dropping, you know, guano on it, so he's trying to keep it clean because Alfred went through all the trouble to clean that suit off. And
you're right. That is one of the less realistic things about this movie, that he could, like, have bats in his Batcave, but...
Well, that's the thing with all Batman stuff.
Animated series does it too, yeah.
If you're in a cave with bats, like, that guano is toxic to you, isn't it?
Toxic.
If you breathe, yeah.
It sure is. That's all I know about bat guano, but, yeah. Also, one of the more unrealistic things Joker does is pushing the frame to the side to get rid of people in the frame. I've talked about this before too, but it's one of my favorite things in this movie because it's so absurd, but it's really dramatic in its way. But like,
I totally buy it though. It's so fun. It's
just for that 4-monitor setup. When you're at home and just watching your one screen, what are you looking at when he does that?
I don't know.
Right?
I like to think that everyone is just seeing him sitting there, and he gets the cue to move his hand, and they see him move his hand, and they're like, what are you doing?
But do they see... Like, it only works when you're looking at 4 monitors, or two monitors. Like, what are you at home seeing when the mayor is talking?
I have no idea. If you...
Right?
I assume that they're supposed to be seeing this, because we're seeing it in a bar, and we're seeing... his picture there, but I don't know if they would have been seeing the mayor.
Yeah, I don't know. See, it's just all about the visuals of what we're looking at in the moment. We're not supposed to question those things.
I just love how many monitors are on this back computer, and they're all tuned into the same thing. You would think the point of having multiple monitors would be to be dissecting different things.
To, I don't know, monitor other stuff.
No, he's just very intensely focused on Joker's face right here. He's gotta have all these little screens for it and all these big screens for it.
What is the switchboard thing that he has underneath the monitors that has, like, all the keys on it?
Maybe that...
I don't know what that is. If we get another shot of it, look for it. It's weird. I don't know what it is.
Is it supposed to be a thing that it's, like, controlling the power to the thing? But that would make sense. Why would you...
Maybe it's how he controls all the cameras all over the cave. Because he has more, or all over the manor, because he has more cameras than he has... Oh, wait a minute. That's weird. That's weird.
Frenzy?
Yeah, it's the same movie that we saw in the opening!
Yeah, that... See, this is where it should have been Zorro, or something of that ilk.
I mean, yeah.
Because surely... they wouldn't be showing the same movie continuously for, what, 20, 30 years?
30 years or whatever it is, yeah.
It's a big hit. Everyone loves it.
Wait a minute. Yeah, it's a classic. This time every year we always show that. We always show Footlight Frenzy. Should we look up Footlight Frenzy and figure out what even that is?
It's the prequel to Footloose, maybe?
Footloose? It would be really funny if Footloose had a prequel. I don't even know what that would be.
Kick off your dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight shoes.
Mother of God!
Yeah, this is not the same setting as where he's putting
Why does
flowers.
he leave the flowers where he left them?
I don't know, because we're not even seeing the hotel anywhere near here. Or any of the signs for the hotel, so... And as Eric always points out, the pearls, which is the Frank Miller thing.
Right. Yeah. And everything has to do it since then.
I love the shot. I could do without it in the next, Matt Reeves Batman thing. Hopefully they don't do it, because we've already seen that in that continuity. Or I'm assuming that's still in the DCEU continuity, or whatever continuity it falls in. And this guy is perfect casting for a young Jack Nicholson.
He's great. He's got a longer face, but he's got the same eyebrows. He's got the same widow's peak. Yeah, it's impressive. That guy didn't do much else. I looked him up at one point. He did not really have a career, I don't think.
Well, that's a shame. He'd be great for a Joker in his own right, just by, with the long face. It feels more Joker-esque than at the time, current Jack Nicholson, just based on comic book accurate Joker.
So, Footlight Frenzy was released in 1984 and was a comedy released by Warner Brothers. But yeah, I have no idea why it's in both scenes.
Well, it couldn't take place in the flashback if it's supposed to be 1984. Well, I guess it could because this doesn't have a set time.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a movie called that. And I that was a stage play in the 50s, so I guess maybe in this universe they made a movie earlier.
Well, that kind of makes sense then, I guess. But, okay, so the glasses thing is because
real quick.
Bat, right? Okay, yeah.
Real quick. I'm sorry. Look at the look at the turtleneck he's wearing. I want her to also be wearing the turtleneck she was wearing earlier in this scene because they both wore that turtleneck.
Oh no, this is awkward. One of us is going to have to change.
I'm sorry. What were you saying?
So he wears glasses because he's blind as a bat, right?
I guess, yeah. Like if you're farsighted, it's way easier to be Batman and not have glasses. Like if you just need it for reading, you're probably okay.
Well, I'm just thinking with, him hanging upside down.
That they're being as literal as humanly possible. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Oh, man, that's hilarious. I can't think of any other iteration where Batman needs glasses.
No, it's usually, like, Thomas Wayne who's got glasses. If we do anything with anyone in the Wayne family having glasses. I think Batman the Animated Series might have Thomas Wayne in glasses. Maybe. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can't ever think of any Bruce Wayne in glasses.
You were talking about that Bruce Wayne figure earlier where he where you can put the bat suit on him. He has a bat on his turtleneck. It's stupid.
Really? See, the one I'm thinking of is the one that's got the red lines all over the front of the...
Yeah, I know. Look at it again, though. There's a bat on it.
Oh, well, that's a little obvious. You're trying to hide your identity, Bruce.
What are you doing? He's hiding in plain sight! Hey, if you can get away with running Batman Incorporated, but nobody knows you're Batman...
Hey,
That will still never make any sense to me.
I'd almost appreciate the idea of, like... Hey, it wasn't copyrighted. He never came forward and copyrighted it, so I did. And here we get our first instance of Batman the murderer, the mass murderer.
That's true. Yep. Yeah, no, I've talked about that at length. It's obviously not as bad as Batman Returns.
Or BVS.
And I mean, yeah, he is blowing up maybe a chemical plant filled with people, but you don't know how many people are actually there.
At least 3 or 4.
Yeah, at least 3 or 4.
Well, granted, he's not there at the time, is he? That's all the Batmobile's remote controlled right now.
No, right? I know, but he's still responsible for it. He's culpable for this.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying he doesn't necessarily know, which is, I think, supposed to be the idea there of some plausible deniability there.
I guess, but wouldn't you make the assumption that there would be guards there?
Well, he's there, so he would have seemingly been scoping the place out before he does that.
Yeah, I don't know. His belt drops when he turns around. That's funny.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's usually the belt's there to hold the pants up. And it doesn't look like the belt is doing anything.
It's just there because that's where he keeps all his stuff.
It's more of a tool belt than a actual belt, which I guess makes sense because it's a utility belt.
Some of these balloons are kind of terrifying.
Man, that Pinocchio clown is horrifying.
that is messed up.
It's...
You know, we're talking about action figures. I would kill to get playsets for some of the buildings in this movie and to be able to arrange them in the square for Tiny Gotham.
You know what would be a cool, maybe not playset, but just a little stand to put a figure on would be this 200 the parade float. You set your Joker figure on it.
That would be awesome. Yeah, and it comes with those balloons, and you put them on little thin stands and pretend like they're floating.
Yep, exactly. There was a lot of merchandise for this movie when it first came out.
Tons.
Not a whole lot of figures, and not a whole lot since. It seems like the farther we've gotten away from this, the less we've done with it, and there's so much in here that you could market.
We've done lots of Batmans for different things, but that's about it. We haven't done much with other characters. We've done some Hot Toys, and I mean, I guess they've done everything. But there've been a couple of kind of bigger, more complex looking figures.
There still hasn't been an actual Batman 89 Funko set, has there? There's just the generic black suit Batman.
No, and it looks like this, but it's not technically this, actually.
Yeah, and if they put it out now, they would have more sculpting on the suit to make it feel more accurate, which seems to be the trend Funko is going in now. I would buy that in a heartbeat. I don't even like the all-black bat suits.
I mean, obviously I have to, because I buy all the Batmans, but it would be really cool to get one for all of those movies, and to get, like, the silly sonar suit at the end of Batman Forever, and all that stuff. It'd be great.
Yeah, all of or one that's got the bat skates from Batman and Robin.
The Hot Toys Joker is really cool. You know, all the Hot Toys stuff is neat because of all the accessories they come with. I think he has he's got the big long gun, and he's got the what am I trying to say? The thing that he like calls the helicopter with, and
the walkie-talkie,
and he's got, I think he comes with like dollar bills, and it's cool.
Yeah, if those weren't so ridiculously expensive, I would buy those.
No, of course. They're prohibitively expensive. But
yeah.
But I don't know, one of these days maybe I'll get one. Maybe I'll get the 89. I want to get a big 89 Batman statue. I've never bought any of those big, like, $400 or $500 statues. One of these days I'm going to do it one time, and it'll be a Michael Keaton.
Yeah. If I ever buy a Hot Toys figure, it will probably be a Ben Affleck Batman, just because that's the first time I think the Batman suit has looked near perfect on screen. But
yeah,
a Keaton one would probably be a close second or third, because I'd get it over any of the Christopher Nolan Batsuits, because I don't particularly care for those.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I've got major nostalgia for the Begin suit, but I actually like it better than the Dark Knight suit, just because it doesn't have so much going on. There's not too many lines on it.
It's more Batman and less like tactical military-ish kind of gear.
Yeah. And I like the tactical military thing better in the Arkham games.
Yeah, it feels...
Some of that's because of color scheme, though. It actually has a color scheme. It's not all black.
Yeah, which makes the bat symbol gives the bat symbol some meaning, and not get lost in the crowd of all the lines and all of the detail and all the black on that suit.
It was a long time before I understood the gas was called Smilex gas. Somehow Smilex always got lost in every line it was in.
This is the first I'm hearing that.
Oh, really? See?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's going to say, Smilex gas. When I was a kid, I thought she said smells like gas.
That's what I've always thought it was. And I'm glad I've got the...
Smilex gas, yep. With a Y. Smilex with a Y.
Yeah. I always thought it was smells like gas, which is kind of a weird thing to say when you're seeing the gas come out in
well, then
green.
You should be dead.
Yeah.
It's really sad how gutted Knox's part is. He originally was supposed to die in a really cool sacrificial death, and he wasn't just a comic relief character. There was a lot more dimension to him, and he and Vicky Vale were more interesting together.
Now, is this supposed to be the scene in the original first draft where Batman comes in on the horse?
Yeah.
Where that would have replaced... Okay.
That would be around here, yeah.
Okay.
I think, if memory serves. It's been a few months since I read that, but...
Well, it would make sense for that to replace the Batwing.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. So we are very much into the nonsensical home stretch here, where things are going to be fun to look at but not make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. We're about to get to that point where I not so much tune out, but don't really remember a whole lot of this movie. I've never kept a whole lot of the third act in my memory, because there's not a whole lot to it that I really enjoy. The whole Vicky kind of going along with the dance with Joker is about the only thing I remember from this thing.
My favorite thing, and again, I've said this 1,000 times, my favorite thing is that Joker already has people at the top of a church that he doesn't know he's going to.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It makes sense in the Arkham games where there's snipers that he's got everywhere, but here not so much. It's like, yeah, y'all go up to that church, y'all gotta pray, or y'all gotta sound the bell when it's midnight.
So for the longest time, I said the giant gun in the pants doesn't make sense because he wouldn't be able to bend his knee, but it is in fact collapsible, and you see him collapse it in front of the church. So watch for it when we get there, because he will take the end of it and collapse it down.
Well, that's one plot hole that is cleared up. Which I guess it doesn't technically count as a plot hole since we've just been mistaken every time we watch it.
Yeah, we were just wrong.
Yeah.
Now, a plot hole that will still never make sense to me is Batman has him in his sights and fires everything and misses entirely, and I've never understood that.
It's warning shots.
Sure, but does he need a scope for that? Hey, the scope is so that he doesn't accidentally hit the man.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Arkham Knight where he's magically able to electrocute anyone he runs over and not kill him.
Wouldn't it be really cool? I mean, it's a little late now, but wouldn't it be really cool if there was a parade that made this exact float, did a perfect replica of it with those balloons?
You would think like a Macy's Day parade around this time would have, Warner Brothers would have capitalized on this and had like maybe the clown float or maybe some of the other ones in there.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, they have these balloons and like. I'm pretty sure those weren't just models. I'm pretty sure they made those life-size balloons. Didn't
they would have to for the scenes where we see it in relation to Joker, because that can't be CGI yet. And that's a great shot of the Batwing in front of the moon. I love that shot so much.
I mean, I guess it could have been superimposed, but it looks better than that.
Yeah, it looks like it's actually going on, and it may not be a full float. It may be, some screen trickery.
This Batman has such a pointless flair for the dramatic.
Like, I love it.
It's really fun when he goes up to the moon, but why did he do that? Why is he wasting his time doing that? It's like he knows there's an audience there.
He's getting ideas for how to signal him, for how everyone else can signal him, and he's trying to give them the idea of, hey, a light with my logo in front of it.
You know what would look cool for the CD cover for the score? If I just went up in front of the moon, that would look cool.
Did they use that shot for the CD cover?
They did. There are 2 CD soundtracks for this, and the Prince one was just the bat symbol that sold this movie on everything, and the actual Danny Elfman score was that screenshot of the Batwing in front of the moon.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, okay. My idea that it's warning shots is completely wrong because he targets right in on Joker.
That's what I'm saying!
Okay, I didn't realize Batman was fine literally pointing a gun at somebody.
Yeah, well, I guess what we could say is he doesn't like guns, but he has them in case he needs them on his Batwing, and so he just sucks at shooting them.
Yeah, he's a terrible aim.
Just a really bad shot. This is some of the best score in the movie. We're talking about doing a whole commentary on score, so I won't talk too much about it, but I love the bells. I love the bells right before we get to the bell tower. That's kind of nice. Maybe accidental foreshadowing.
Yeah, that's a really... I'm not one who normally notices score, but that's a really nice touch now that you bring that up. And this seems
it will be
like
fun to see if I can talk about score for an entire 2 hours, but I'm going to do my level best.
This seems like the most structurally unsound Batwing ever. Like, it has no protection. One shot from one oversized gun, and it's just down in a...
See, he's been practicing with that giant gun a lot. Like Batman should practice firing missiles more if he's going to have them.
Yeah, Batman. Don't skimp on the missiles.
Just go out to the desert and shoot things, okay? just blow up cacti. Blow them up with your missiles.
Or if you're trying to get used to your aim in Gotham City, just aim at Wayne Enterprises' competitors. No one will ever suspect it.
What do we sell? I don't know. I guess now shoes. I guess
we sell anything. We're the only company in town because I've blown everyone else away.
That's how Lex does it.
So I love all the little gadgets and the colorfulness of everything Joker's got. The face mask he gives Vicky has that same color as the walkie-talkie he's got here. And just everything he's got has that, like, 66 Joker kind of color palette to it. It's such a nice contrast from his, like, deep purples and greens. It's close, but it's a little more vivid and a little more playful and a little more kind of toyetic than what he looks like, which is a nice perversion on, like, that Joker kind of clown motif.
Yeah, it's nice that Tim Burton allowed it to go that colorful.
Yeah, you'd think nowadays we wouldn't. Well, maybe with Joker we would, but every other film that's done Joker hasn't really done the colorful gadgets, which is you'd think an obvious place to go to contrast him with Batman, where everything Batman's got is a bat and it's black.
It makes a lot of sense with Ledger because he's not gadgety. He's like the opposite of that.
Oh, true,
you know,
but even
like, look what I do. I use this stuff because it's cheap.
Well, even Jared Leto's, his was more like drug cartel gangster motif of everything being gold and being kind of gaudy and tacky, and not so much the Joker thing. But I'll save my rant for Jared Leto's Joker for
when we do Suicide Squad 7 times in a row. Joker,
one for each member.
Right. Yeah. So look forward to the Diablo commentary.
Slipknot is going to be my favorite one to do. It'll be 5 seconds.
We just turn it off. You watch up to that point, then we turn it off. It's Danny. It's really hard to walk up the stairs of a church when you just got in a plane crash, but it's even harder when you're in a suit that you can barely move in the first place.
I bet Batman's thinking, man, I should have had Wayne Enterprises put an elevator in this old church just for this occasion. Just in case.
Yeah, he doesn't have the forethought Joker has. Joker has men up there. What's his excuse?
I don't know, but he could have put the money he saved in not throwing all these batarangs away to good use and put an elevator.
Good point. And I'm reading way too much into this, but Joker is looking around like he's never been in this building before, and he's got men up here. I mean, I guess he could have men up here and he's never been here, but...
Yeah, maybe it's a thing where he's supposed to be looking around to find where everyone else was at, maybe, but I don't know.
Do you think they chose this location just so that they could have the line "Bats in my belfry"?
That and the perversion of having a Joker and a bat in a church. I think a church is an obvious place for such a gothic aesthetic. Something.
Of course, sure.
But
he's unholy, and Batman has kind of made his name on being a scary, unholy figure.
Yeah. And plus, it's always nice to throw in that "Bats in my belfry" line because in our chimney that we never use because it's Texas and it's 100 degrees, and why would you burn a fire in a fireplace in Texas? We actually have bats, so I can hear those bats every now and then. So I've actually literally got bats in my belfry.
That's awesome.
Oh, not when you're trying to sleep and it's 2 a.m. and you hear them fluttering around.
Oh, I'm sure, but I can enjoy it at your expense for the sake of this commentary.
Oh, absolutely. I'd rather have bats than homicidal clowns. So,
Gordon, take your scarf off. Nobody else seems cold. I don't...
Well, when we see Bruce Wayne, he's usually wearing a scarf outside, so it kind of fits.
No one else right now is wearing a scarf. And Gordon has, this crisis on his hands. He's like, I'm worried about being cold.
Keeping the right body temperature in a stressful situation is very important to one's health.
I just like to make fun of Pat Engle's Gordon any chance I get.
I'm with you.
He's a good actor.
Choice.
I like him, but everything about that casting choice is counterintuitive, and I don't know why we did that.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe we were looking too much at 60s with that, right? Because he is more that body type.
That, and he's kind of got a little bit of that incompetence that 60s.
Later, he'll have a lot of that incompetence.
Yeah. It seems to be the one thing that they really, really pulled from 66 is that incompetent police squad.
Right, yeah.
And everyone really needs Batman.
Yeah, and you have that token corrupt cop so that you have a sense of there might be some corruption in the police force, but it doesn't seem like corruption is the main problem and why there's so much crime in the city.
Right, I like the inverse of it where you get the sense that everyone is corrupt and there's the one token good guy, like we kind of do in a year one type of situation with Gordon.
This feels like, because we talk about how Gotham is so dangerous we don't even know if we should have this festival, and we've got all this organized crime. I think maybe it makes the police force look less incompetent when it's organized crime and it's not just like we suck at our jobs, so there's just random crime run rampant, like where it's the police force versus another organized force. I guess that works better, but it still feels like we need Batman because the cops just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, there's really, I think, two ways that you could go about that and make it really work. And one is how you mentioned, like, the cops are going up against something organized and they're just flat out outnumbered and can't contain it on their own. Or you have the one where we've got a police force, but they're all corrupt and you can't really trust the people that you're supposed to be able to trust to protect you, so you need someone outside the law to come in and maybe try to clean some of that up.
And organized crime owns them.
Absolutely.
You know, that's what we do with Batman Begins, that's what we do with Daredevil.
And it's probably one of my favorite one of the things we do with the cops in the Nolanverse. I just love how, like, organized crime and mafia family, all of that crime kind of centers around, at least in Begins, and some in Dark Knight, but not to the extent that it is. Or
just gives you a reason why Batman would be necessary, and it's personal for him because that's why his parents got killed.
Yeah, it makes it feel a lot more closer to home, literally, since it's all about his home.
You know, I probably said this before too, but I don't think I would wear sunglasses in this situation.
No, that seems like a hindrance.
It's really dark up there. Like, it's probably darker than it looks like for us, so we can see what's going on. There are no light sources.
I know, it's like, we get it, dude. You want to look cool for the Joker. Everyone wants to impress the Joker, but you don't need the shades. Come on. So that little bit of flexibility we got from Batman where he brings his legs up over and pulls the guy down, that's like the most acrobatic we ever get with his Batsuit. And maybe that's because you don't have to shoot the full Batsuit and you can just kind of do, something from the bottom of the suit and not have all the rigidness of the upper body. But it's a really nice contrast to show that he's got some more fighting skills than just kicking someone in the face or just punching them.
That's true. The leap he does right before that is more impressive because you do see the whole suit, and I don't know how they did that.
I'd imagine they would have had a suit that's cut into, that's cut at kind of like how a action figure would be cut, so you've got the articulation, and then have a all black suit underneath it, and are trying to hide it with some smoke and mirrors type.
Probably so.
Shooting.
To the point, and it's dark. To the point you're making, I was maybe a little bit unfair and disingenuous to Batman's fighting skills because he does actually show off some real ability in these scenes.
Yeah, maybe it would have been a thing of trying to save it for the end to show his fighting prowess, I guess.
Because before this, it's easy to say, like, does this Batman have any skills, or is it just all gadgets and a suit that's hard to shoot through? But, like, it would take real skill and not just because you have the padding on the glove, to stop that guy that's coming at you.
Yeah.
With the blades, I think.
Yeah, and you're talking about the one who had the blades on the feet, where he's got that little extender thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always like that scene. I think that's a really cool gadget.
I mean, I guess he is just putting his hand out. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you would need a lot of training for that, but just to, like, anticipate, know what's coming.
Yeah, that's always one of those things of, like, Batman plans for everything. I love that he's got this really, you would think, in most cases, unnecessary gadget where he can just extend his palm out a little bit further to block something.
Danny, have you ever danced for the devil in the pale moonlight?
I'm a night owl, and I tend to spend most of my time awake at night, but no, I haven't. I tend to dance with him in the sunlight.
Oh. Okay, I didn't know that was an option when you're the devil.
Yeah, well, contrary to popular belief in, like, pop culture fiction, he likes to get some sun. He's got to keep his complexion, his red complexion. So he has to go out and get sunburnt all the time.
So we're making a commentary that no one can see, and Eric felt the need to comment on the shirt I'm wearing right now.
I love this fake hand gag. That's such a Joker thing to do.
Yeah, it is a Joker that actually does funny things, and does, like, corny, old-school funny things.
Yeah, very, almost kind of slapstick.
Which I really like. Because it's really menacing to do that kind of thing to people that are hanging off a ledge and they're about to die.
Yeah, it's funny watching it. It's terrifying if that happens to you.
Sure,
in real
yeah.
life.
So one of the really weird things about this movie, and where, you know, the whole movie I feel like I'm supposed to be, again, wondering if I can really trust Batman and if he's really the good guy, and then you get to the end and he's completely vindicated because he just drops the bad guy off a roof, and now, we'll call him anytime we need assistance.
Yeah, anytime we need to drop a crazy-looking supervillain off the top of a church, let's call this Batman guy. He can be trusted.
And then we don't have to do anything.
Exactly. We can afford to have an incompetent police force when we've got Batman here to drop people off of a church.
Yeah, this isn't technically Batman's origin, but it is the origin of the culture of dependence that Batman has already in 66 Batman.
Yeah.
It is the origin of that.
I love that we've got a Joker copter. I love that everything with him is branded with that Joker face on it. It's because
the way this should,
nice look.
No, it's well, and again, there's an inherent comparison there with Batman. They both brand all their stuff. We don't do anything with it, but it's there.
In a film that, in an alternate reality, might have had more to do with the 80s materialism, you would think they'd go more into depth on that. That was,
because this is a world where both of these guys act as if the world revolves around them, and when you get to the end of the movie, it just does.
Yeah, it pretty much, you've got the searchlights circling around them, which aren't great effects, honestly, and neither is that.
No,
but that's just a thing of the time.
No, that's true. I mean, there are other ways they could have done that would have looked way worse.
True.
So I don't mind it.
It's weird how bad that looks, and then here it looks really good. It's just, when you see them right next to each other, it's such a glaring thing to notice.
The green screen or the rear projection or however that's done, because I actually can't really tell looking at it, looks really good.
Yeah, the only time I really notice green screen is when we see Batman in the Batwing, and you see a little bit of a green fuzz around the outline of everything.
Oh, I never even thought of that. I never noticed that.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm watching it on a Blu-ray, and those details are a little bit more, but I can see a little bit of that green tint.
I bet that's right. Yeah, I'm watching a DVD. I bet you don't see it here. So yeah, this laughing bag always intrigued me when I was a kid. Just like that laugh is really creepy, and I always wondered if he did this intentionally or if he just landed on it. But somebody made one, and I found it on eBay at one point, and I thought about getting it, but he had video of it. And what I didn't like about it was it wasn't just that laugh, and he didn't create the laugh. He just used the footage or the audio from this, so you had the music in the background. So I didn't like that. But also, he had it so that when you pushed it, it would cycle, and you'd sometimes get the laugh, but then you'd also get lines of dialogue from the movie, and I didn't like that, so I didn't get it. But it looked really good. Yeah,
that's a shame. I'd assume there's a lot of work that goes into actually making the bag and everything.
The prop. It's a really good looking prop.
Yeah, and those are different areas of expertise of audio engineering and then making a craft like that. So maybe he just didn't have the ability to edit the laughter the way he would have liked to. But that would be a really
the look on Knox's face there is his being surprised that he survived this film.
Jesus, Vicky.
And weird that so many of the supporting characters that are that seem pretty prominent in the city just don't show up again after this movie.
Yeah,
I don't know where Knox went. I don't know where the mayor went. I don't know where Harvey Dent went. I mean, by Batman Forever, I guess I sort of know where he went, but you'd think he'd still be kind of kicking around in Returns. I don't know.
You would think, maybe the mayor got voted out, and there was an election in between, or something like that. But
but wouldn't it have been cool if you saw him going out, given that Penguin is running for mayor in that movie?
Yeah, well, my idea doesn't make any sense of him getting voted out, because that would have meant there was
one in between.
One in between, or he had some kind of a scandal or something, which you would think would need to be addressed, especially in a movie tackling someone running for mayor.
Yeah. And that's got that, I mean, it's not real smart about it, but it's got that, political corruption and business corruption thing.
Yeah. Where do you land on Returns? Because it's probably one of my least favorite Batman movies.
Same here. Yeah, obviously I've talked about this a lot. It's just, like this movie, it's style over substance, but it also feels kind of mean-spirited.
Yeah, like, maybe it was just a misconception on my part, but a few years ago when I was really starting to get into the comic book, like, fandom and everything, of, like, exploring, forums and everything of other people talking about it, I always heard more good things about Returns than I did this, Batman 89, and it always confused me because I've never really liked the look of it. I don't like that kind of penguin. I don't like that penguin. I'm less meh about Catwoman. I like the look. I don't hate the stitched together costume, but I don't really care for it all that much either.
Sure.
I've just never really cared for that movie as much as I have with this one, especially when I'm such a visual guy, and if it's got cool visuals, I'm more forgiving of it if the story isn't great. But that was a movie that I never got into the story, I never got into the visuals, I just never really took to it. It's probably the one I've seen the least out of any Batman live action movie.
That's probably true of me too. I mean, I have seen it a lot, but I think I've probably seen it even fewer times than Batman and Robin, weirdly.
Yeah, and with me, Batman and Robin used to come on ABC Family all the time. So if there was a Batman movie on TV, I would watch it.
You're always going to watch it?
No matter what it was. So I saw Batman and Robin a lot. So I grew up with a weird nostalgia for that movie, even though it's not very good. But I find it so entertaining.
By the end of the series, I wonder how many of these names of behind-the-scenes people we'll be familiar with. We'll get to the end of this. By 6, we'll be like, well, yes, of course, Nick Dugman, the makeup designer for the Joker. Yes, of course.
Are we going to have to do a quote-along for all the scrolling names?
Oh, no, I'm not doing that. That would be crazy. Did you know that Shirley Walker conducted this score?
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
That explains how she got the animated series gig.
Yeah. I always just assumed she got that gig because names in animation tend to run together, and if you work with someone in the past, you bring him in for something new. I always pictured her more from the the TV side, less so than this. I never realized she was...
That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
I mean, it kind of makes sense if they're going to use some, kind of that same theme for Batman, at least, to bring someone in who worked on this, so they've got a clearer understanding of what
what's really interesting is Warner's was already hiring her to score other stuff because she did the theme for The Flash.
Really?
And that was in 90. Yeah.
I'll have to go and at least listen to the soundtrack to Flash, or the score
it's
for
great.
Flash.
It's really cool, but it sounds like a Batman thing. Because that whole show, initially, I mean, it got cornier and more Flash-like as it went along, but initially that was taking the 89 aesthetic and doing the Flash that way.
Huh, that's interesting, because John Wesley's ship will also be at the Comic-Con I'm going to in a few weeks. By the time this commentary comes out, I will have already gone to it, but...
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
it's a pretty star-studded Comic-Con for my small little area.
Yeah. I'm gonna come see you at some point, man.
Absolutely, man. We'll definitely have to go to Six Flags, because they've got a Joker ride, and they'll have a Harley Quinn ride that I haven't been to since, that I'll have to check out.
Oh, neat. I keep stopping myself from saying too much about the music because I need to save all of that if we're going to do a whole movie. I mean, if we're going to do a whole commentary on just music.
Yeah, and before we do that one, I've definitely got to go listen to both the actual soundtrack and the score, just so I'm a little bit more familiar with it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, filmed at Pinewood Studios in London.
Were you fact-checking me?
Well, no, you had mentioned earlier you weren't quite sure of the name, so I figured...
No, I said it! I said Pinewood. I said it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said it might be Pinewood. But
no!
Either way.
That one I know about, for sure. Well, anyway, this concludes our first commentary on Batman 89. We're going to do another one for you tomorrow, so look forward to that. Very interested to see how many folks stick with us, and the big question is, are we crazier for doing this, or are some of you guys going to be crazier for listening to all of them? But we're going to do our best to make it entertaining for you, and it's going to be a fun experiment. I'm excited. Danny, are you worried that you said too much?
Well, depending on how we do the next shows, because we're doing the themed ones. I think I noticed a lot of stuff from this one that I wanted to say, it didn't come up, or we were talking about something else while something was going on.
That's
so
good.
I think I'll have stuff like in the movie to talk about.
Do you think
still.
my 6 will be like, I might have said this on the first commentary, but I don't remember?
With 6, we should try to make it exactly identical to this one.
That's a horrible idea. I just promised we would try to make it entertaining. I did. I just promised that. Well, everybody, thanks so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you again maybe tomorrow. If you want to watch the exact same movie with us, again, I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Danny.
See you later, folks.